of a for-profit entity to operate athletics business and financial elements outside of the traditional university framework. The number that we're hearing is $500 million. Okay, Otro Capital is the private equity firm out of New York. I know quite a bit about them, actually, that we're going to get into today and what this could potentially mean. So private equity has long been on the way to college athletics. And if you listen to the show, first of all, thank you. Hello, how are you? Second of all, you know I've been talking about this for about 5 years. Ultimately, I'm seeing a lot of people jump off a cliff right away, assuming this is a bad thing. And I want to be clear. I can't lie. It might be, but there's no guarantee it's going to be, okay? Not all private equity is created equal. This comes down to your trust in the operators, your trust in Mark Harlan, your trust in Taylor Randall, and then ultimately, as we get to know their new partners, what will we learn about them and what sort of voice will they have in the room? Otro Partners, again, a New York-based private equity firm. This deal, I can tell you, I've been on the phone all morning. It's been in the works for a number of different months. And Otro was not the only bidder. There were other people potentially involved in this entire thing. And a president from outside the university will preside over the company and report to a board, which will be chaired by Mark Harlan, with seats for trustees and Otro executives. My understanding is there will be 2 seats for Otro executives. There will be 4 seats that go essentially to the University of Utah, Mark Harlan being one of them, and then 1 7th seat that by my best estimation will be filled by a local business person who is a Utah fan. The names that you're going to hear are the typical names that you always hear, right? It's going to be a Huntsman, an Eccles, a Garf. I don't know who it's going to be. These details will start to leak out as more information rolls in. But we will get to all of the angles here. I've been listening around to some of the coverage, and people have no idea what they're talking about. A lot of idiots trying to chime in here. Without any knowledge. This does not have to be bad news. It could be the exact opposite. But we will get into it on the show today and talk about what this means, both the good and the potential bad, if you're a Utah football fan, if you are a fan of Utah athletics. So we'll get into it on the show. We'll get to know these new partners and try to alleviate some fears and concerns, but also be very honest and salient about what this can mean for your Utah football experience, mainly Utah basketball, Utah gymnastics. And as far as what we've been able to learn so far, we're going to go over all the details. Now, of course, that's not the only thing going on. Is Notre Dame looking for a new home? Potentially calls that are going out from conferences to Notre Dame, some from the Big 12. As we chatted with Ted Robinson about yesterday, their preferred destination is the Big 10 because, of course, it is. So we'll get into the latest, of course, in that direction. Latest in the college football playoff scenario as we kind of put a bow on the season for Utah and BYU. As we know, they're bowl destinations and, of course, a couple of fan bases that just experienced a really, really good season but left wanting more, as neither will be in the CFP. We're going to get the latest on the World Cup situation. Lionel Messi rolling into Salt Lake City. He did say recently he may not play for Argentina. Does that affect the calendar? So we'll do a little bit of that. The Utah Jazz continue to roll through their season. Off for a little bit. They're going to see Memphis on Friday. BYU basketball is going to play Clemson at 4:30 today at Madison Square Garden. Utah Hoops back in action tomorrow. The Utah Mammoth are off tonight as well. They'll be back in action tomorrow. So a ton going on. Phillip Rivers is back in the NFL at the age of 44. Shout out all you mid to late 40-year-old gentlemen. The NFL might still be a possibility for you. So jam-packed on a Tuesday drive. Our first guest will be our college football insider from The Athletic, Chris Camerani. My guess is CK will not want to chime in on private equity, but we're going to force him to anyway. So Chris will be live in studio for an entire hour, starting coming up at 2:30, about 15 minutes from right now. Our friends from the Fierce Fighting Championship roll into town. Roll into studio. They're in town holding an event on Friday. Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune will join us, and then John Kimball, president of Real Salt Lake. So a ton to do on the show today with Chris Camerani, our friends from the Fierce Fighting Championship, Andy Larson, John Kimball, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, hello, happy Tuesday. And that guy, Porter Larson. All right, man, we've been talking about private equity coming to college athletics for years.
Have we?
Years, okay? Not to take a victory lap. It just felt inevitable. What I'm seeing is a lot of people jumping off a cliff, and you don't necessarily have to do that because we need to wait and see how this works.
Well, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people who are out of their depth in this specific just field. I'm one of those people. When it comes to, you're talking multiple commas, you're talking big private equity. My thoughts on it are difficult because there is a lot to unpack there. Now, who is this private equity, right? Are they Utah people? Are they private equity people? Are they both? This is all important. It's all things we're going to get into. Either way, it is an infusion into your program, but it is also kind of an overture that puts you out on a limb that not many other programs or institutions have been able to figure out or have, been okay taking the risk to figure out. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But as you said, a lot to unpack, and idiots like me, we'll let the news come in and then react to it because, it's way over my head in a lot of degrees.
Yeah, and it's complex, and there's a lot here. I've done my best this morning to get on the phone with people and kind of dig through the details of the partnership to try to be able to talk to everybody this afternoon about what could come next. Our first guest, CK Chris Camerati, live in studio. But before Chris rolls by, courtesy of our good friends at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
The holiday season is upon us. It's the best time of year for sports. Bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, what game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that is Prize Picks. They've got a new feature alert where you can get early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Fantasy football, my team is cooked, but you can play fantasy football every week on Prize Picks. And you pick your favorite players. If they hit their projections, you can win up to 2,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right. We were met with some massive news a few hours back. Ross Dellinger was the first to report this. Came down at about 8:30 this morning, that the University of Utah is on the cusp of striking the industry's first partnership with an equity firm in a marriage that features a 9-figure capital infusion and the creation of a shared ownership, and it's a for-profit entity, because of course it is, to operate athletics, business, and financial elements outside of the traditional university framework. Bottom line is this: private equity has officially arrived in college athletics, and Utah is the first school to decide to go in this direction, at least on this level. There have been other schools that have taken smaller private equity, when it comes to the partnerships. Kentucky, Michigan State, Clemson have created a private revenue-generating entity outside of the athletic department as college sports evolves into a more professionalized ecosystem. So this is not necessarily entirely new, but on this level it is. And a few years back, I told you about a conversation I had with somebody who outlined this exact model. And he actually said the number $500 million, it kind of caught me off guard. He said, look, Ohio State was thought to be the first to do this because last year they reported they were $37 million in debt. Colorado, a $27 million debt as we speak. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is not all debt is created equal. Not all debt is the same, right? So if you have debt and your percentage is 4.5%, 5%, but you can utilize the cash that you use from the debt to have a 10% growth, then you're actually doing okay. So there's a lot of conversation, and there's been a lot of rumors about Utah athletics being in debt. I don't have their P&L sheet. I don't have their profit and loss sheet. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I can't speak to that. Does this acceptance of $500 million in capital, does it indicate that there is debt that needs to be serviced with the U? I think that's a fair question, and I don't know the answer to that, okay? So when we dig into some of the pieces of this, first of all, everyone calm down. Let's start there. We don't know if this is going to be a good or a bad thing, okay? And whether or not it will be a good or a bad thing comes down to the operators from Oak Trail. Alex Shiner is one of their founders. Alex spent some time with the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns, and then he spearheaded a project called Legends Hospitality. My father was the CEO of Legends Hospitality, so he worked with Alex Shiner, okay? I will tell you this. One thing that we simply cannot debate about anyone in private equity is they're all about one thing, and that's return on investment. I can't spin this as anything other than these guys looking at an opportunity and believing in 5 to 7 years, if their exit strategy is executed the way they want it to, they're looking at walking away with hundreds of millions of dollars. That cannot be debated, okay? But a couple things here. Typically, a private equity group, whether it's sports, whether it's restaurants, whether it's hotels, they will buy control, okay? So meaning this, there are 7 seats on this board that Oaktrow and Utah are now both a part of. Typically, whether it's Bain Capital or any of the other, BlackRock or whatever, any of the big private equity firms, if they're going to infuse a business with $500 million in cash right away, they're going to want control. They're going to want more than 49% of a stake, and they're going to want the majority on the board, okay? That is not this, which is actually a piece of good news. My understanding is of the 7 seats, 4 will go to Utah, 2 will go to Oaktrow, and there will be a 7th board member that, again, as I expressed earlier, is probably going to be a local businessman who is a big Utah fan. The names you're going to hear are Eccles, Huntsman, the Garfs, I could keep going. That is probably how this is going to look. But what that means is, and the board, by the way, is chaired by Mark Harlan, who's Utah's athletic director, anxious to hear what the role is of Taylor Randall, the president of the university. Side note, Taylor will join our show when he gets back into town. He took a flight out after they consummated this deal today. So his office reached out. He's going to stop by, and I'll have a ton of questions for him because he's the guy that can answer. So if you're a Utah football fan, this does come down to, in no small part, what is your faith and trust in Taylor Randall? What is your faith and trust in Mark Harlan? Okay, I don't think they would take a deal with the devil that would completely blow everything up. But if we go over what could be good and what could be bad about this, ultimately, we'll start with what could be good. It's pretty simple, okay? And I do have to wonder how the BYU boosters and donors are reacting to this, because whether you're our guy Cookie Bro, whether you're Ryan Smith, or any of the other big-time BYU donors and boosters and guys that have, basically donated a ton of money to the institution, they did not do that with any sort of, possibility of seeing a return on their investment. They're not invested in BYU athletics. They just donated money. And part of this, according to Ross Dellinger and now Matt Baker, Stuart Mandel, and Justin Williams of the Athletic, is this group, Utah and Oaktrow, they're offering the chance for people in our community to invest in their project together, which means if you're a Utah booster, if you're a Utah donor, you have a chance to, I would assume, buy little pieces of equity in this project. And then in 5 to 7 years, which is the time frame of when Oaktrow wants to exit, you could see some money coming your way on the other side. So that could be a huge benefit for Utah athletics, who has looked to try to find something to separate themselves a little bit from BYU, Texas Tech, something that is a little bit different, because as of now, it doesn't appear they have the same type of deep-pocketed donors. Cody Campbell, Texas Tech, all the guys down in Provo, the Utah County Bros that love BYU athletics. This is Utah's answer to that. And what will it mean? So the good is simple. You guys can figure this out. The good is a $500 million infusement of capital right away will allow you to pay players, so you will have better talent. You can improve the equipment. You can improve facilities if you want to. You can use that money in pretty much any way you want to improve the consumer experience. So we might see some upgrades to Rice Eccles. We might see some new suites. I don't know. But the consumer experience will be improved right away. You'll see better talent in football, better talent in basketball, gymnastics teams able to retain and add to as well. And the good part of not including the other sports in this deal is the other sports will not be in danger of being cut, okay? So, again, you have to understand this private equity firm, they view things as simple return on investment and profit and loss. So if you included the baseball team in this deal, if you included the soccer team or the track team, and private equity bro is sitting down going over your financials, they could say, okay, the track team doesn't make money, done, they're cut. But because they're not included in this deal, The revenue generated by the revenue-generating sports should be able to continue to maintain those sports, and they could still basically stay alive, which is a good thing, okay? Now, the bad. The bad is simple. There's an excellent chance that everything at the University of Utah, as it pertains to the athletic experience, the consumer experience, is simply going to be more expensive because they have to generate more revenue. A lot of the revenue will be generated simply by live TV rights, which is the lifeblood of all sports and certainly college football big time. But don't be surprised if in the coming weeks and months, as a season ticket holder, you get an email from Utah Athletics that says, hey, congratulations, we love you, you're a Ute for life. Oh, by the way, 30% more for your season tickets next year. Don't be surprised if you walk into Rice-Eccles Stadium or the Huntsman Center and the very average hot dog that you already pay $5 for is now $9. Don't be surprised if you want to buy your son a Devin Dampier jersey next year, it's $180 instead of $120. That's the bad. So the good is the infusion of cash will improve the consumer experience. The bad is simple. You're going to pay more for it. But as of now, everyone calm down. It doesn't mean that this is the end of college athletics. We've been moving in this direction for years. A pro model was inevitable, and we will continue to move into a pro model where at some point these players are going to be able to unionize and then collectively bargain with a leadership group, just like they do in the NFL or the NBA. Whew. All right, drinking through a fire hose. Let's talk more about money, though, because my guy Dave from America First Credit Union is live in studio. What's up, Dave? How are you, man?
Spence, so good to be here with you, my friend. And you got that whole paragraph or that whole thing in one breath. I'm impressed.
Man, and, you know, like that's 10% of my notes, you know, because these things are complex. But look, let's help our listeners make their money work for them, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what you guys do at America First Credit Union. And I've been talking about this. If you're in business with a national big, branch, one of the bigger deals, you're in business for them to profit. But that's not how credit unions work. Let's just educate people a little bit here.
Yeah, the concept of how credit unions started was a bunch of people who were not getting services from a bank. They just felt like they were being discriminated against. They were not profitable. And they said, there's got to be a better way. So they basically lumped their resources together. They pooled their savings, and they made low-cost loans to each other, and they paid each other back. And so the profits go back into the organization, making it bigger, better, and stronger. There's no outside entity to pay, so those profits go back to the ownership. So being an owner and being a member is synonymous. It's the same thing. And so by doing business with the credit union, it benefits you in the long run. That's the philosophy that we started with 86 years ago, and that's the philosophy that we continue to exercise today.
Now, you're not the only credit union, but why should people choose you? What kind of sets you guys apart?
Yeah, we've been around since 1939, Spence, and we truly adhere to that practice of people helping people. Very humble beginnings. We started up at the University of Utah with Fort Douglas, serving the civilian employees of the federal government and military. And from those humble beginnings, we've grown into what we are today. And we could not grow without providing our members with the good experience, with good products, with good services, and trust. We value that trust that our members put in us, and that's essential for us doing business. And, we are Utah's largest credit union. We're sixth in the nation. So we have that national strength, the power of a national organization, but we still have that local presence. We have 116 branches throughout 6 different western states, and we focus on the one. We focus on the individual family or the community, and try and provide those essential services to make things right with everybody. And when your personal finances are strong, that makes families strong and makes community strong. And we have a great recipe. We'd love for you to come and try us out.
And I think 87 branches. Do I remember that correctly in Utah?
Over 90.
Over 90 branches now.
Yeah.
And then, great customer service, because the other thing that's difficult with some of the bigger banks is even getting anyone on the phone, let alone anybody who actually can help you. So when it comes to all the branches you have, you can actually get to know who's working in the branch and walk in and actually get one-on-one help.
Yeah, we have a philosophy of providing service that's a good tech and a good touch experience. So for those who want that eye contact, handshake experience, lots of branches all throughout the Wasatch Front. Anywhere that you could think of, we have a location to serve you. And I love it when people say, that's my branch. Mm-hmm. They take ownership of that. They know who works there, and they form that relationship of trust with those people. Some people want the experience where I just need to call in really quick and get something. Even without talking to somebody, there's an automated system that you can kind of go push some buttons, even speak to it, and get the answer that you need pretty quickly. I also love our technology. We love to be a leader in technology, and we love to have our online banking and our mobile banking that allows you to just manage some stuff. There's people who have moved out of state, never closed their accounts because their information and access to their money is just so readily available. So we have a good balance of all of those things.
All right, before we break, I think a lot of people, just the thought of going through the logistics of changing over one bank account to the other is just something that feels like a hassle. So why make the switch? We've got $100 for people that just open up a checkings and a savings account, and a good deal to help teach your children the way money works, correct?
Yeah, we do. That pain point of saying, how miserable, what's the cost of my misery?
Yeah.
At what point do I really want to make that change? And we try and make it very easy for you to switch over. And yes, there's some things logistically that you have to do, but when you move over your direct deposit and you get your checking there, and we become your primary financial institution, there's not probably a product or service that we don't provide that you just wouldn't need. And so we truly offer all those things. And so come on in, try us out, switch over. And we have some great deals going on right now, like you mentioned. For coming in and opening up an account, we'll give you $100. There's no strings attached. Just open up an account and get a savings or a checking, and you're good to go. You mentioned the youth account. I think it's always wise to teach your kids at an early age. That financial education is so important. It starts them off on the right foot, learning how debits work and how credits work and learning how to save their money. They can log in and they can see that money growing. It's inspiring to see our younger generation grasping that. And so we'll give you $50 to open up a youth account. You can get a debit card for your youth account. It's called a funds card. Link your adult account to your kids' accounts. It's a great way that you can, give them a gift, for the holidays.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a great opportunity, and that's a limited time offer. So I would come in or call in or apply online today so you don't miss out.
Go to americafirst.com. You can go to americafirst.com/deals or walk into any of their over 90 Utah branches today. Dave, you're the man.
Thanks, man.
Catch a break. CK, College Football Insider, live in studio, ESPN 700. So when the news came down today that Utah Athletics had locked in a historic private equity deal, I texted Porter. I said, get me the best private equity expert you can in the market so we can just talk money for about an hour. And we booked Chris Camerani, our college football insider. Let's make sure CK's mic is on. Our college football insider from The Athletic. Hello, Chris. How are you?
How we doing?
We're good. We're good.
Busy morning for you a little bit.
Busy morning, drinking through a fire hose. Look, we've talked about private equity has been on the way, and now it's here.
You've been beating this drum for a while, so you can take a victory lap.
Well, I'm not trying to take a victory lap.
No, but you called it.
Well, I was right. Yeah. Everyone else was wrong.
I don't know if you necessarily saw that it was going to happen in our own backyard kind of first compared to the rest of the country.
Well, what was wild, and I talked about this during the first segment, I had somebody take me to lunch who 4 years ago, he said the number $500 million. He said the idea would be a private equity firm infusing Utah Athletics with $500 million in exchange for like 49% of the overall product. I don't know what the percentages are. We have to wait to see what that looks like. But the cash number, $500 million, is exactly what he said 4 years ago. And that's the amount of money that Utah will have at its disposal to improve whatever it wants to.
Where'd you go to lunch?
It's that little coffee shop.
Okay.
West Side by like the Gateway.
Mm-hmm.
I should know what it's called. I used to go there all the time.
What you ordered?
A latte. Is that pertinent to the conversation? I like a good latte.
So, one, I feel like this would be a big Dave week because he has existence in that world. Indeed. As well as running a sports franchise. Mm-hmm. So just putting a little bird in your ear.
Okay.
Just giving you a little bit of a heads up.
Okay. Thank you.
I have not been on the ground floor of this since the news broke this morning. I've been working on other more pertinent things on my end.
Uh-huh.
Luckily, my colleagues at The Athletic who are much smarter and more well-versed in this, Matt Baker, Justin Williams, Stu Mandel, these are three of my colleagues who have really kind of been following the explosion of NIL, crowdsource funding when it comes to universities nationwide, and in particular the potential of private equity getting involved with the Big Ten, as we've talked about in the last couple months. Mm-hmm. That's kind of been a contentious topic for folks in that conference as well. I was stunned to see that this is taking place in our own backyard. It is fascinating that this guy or gal that you went to lunch with 4 years ago mentioned the exact same number that it ended up being. So yeah, I'm excited to interview about this topic.
No, you're participating. This is, and you've interviewed me once, and it was terrifying.
Was it?
I was like, what happened to my friend Chris?
Yeah.
Alex Shiner is one of the co-founders of Otro, and he's a partner. He was president of the Cleveland Browns. He was senior VP of the Cowboys. And then for a while, he was the point person for Legends Hospitality when my father was the CEO of Legends. So they've worked together. So I know there's some familiarity, there. I'll let my father speak to that. We're going to get him on. Taylor Randall's office reached out. He's going to come on the show. He caught a flight after essentially kind of consummating the deal. It's been in the works now for a number of different months, and I guess there were a number of different private equity firms that wanted a part of it. So Alec has experience in pro sports, and again, if we're going to be grown-ups about this, college sports is now essentially professional sports, definitely on the football side, right? So, look, the good is simple, Chris. The bad is a little bit more complex, and that comes down to how much you believe in the operators. And I don't know enough about Alex Shiner or his partners to tell you how they will operate this from their side. How much do you trust Mark Harlan? How much do you trust Taylor Randall? That's also what it comes down to. But the good, like usually when private equity firms get involved with anything, whether it's sports, whether it's restaurants, whether it's hotels, they buy control, right? So they say, all right, Chris Camerani, you run a coffee shop in Sugar House. I'm going to give you $2 million for you to, buy some beans or whatever the hell it is. Buy some new espresso machines.
Okay.
And now I own 51% of your business. You own 49, which means I get to tell you what to do. So typically when they buy into sports teams or businesses, they buy control. They didn't do that here, okay? So you have 7 seats now as far as the board of directors go. One is Mark's as the chairman. 3 others will belong to the university. And then Otro gets 2 seats And then there's a 7th seat that will be filled by what I would perceive to be a businessman here local that is a Utah football fan, Utah Athletics fan. Eccles, Huntsman, Garf, those are the names that you'll hear. We don't necessarily know what it's going to look like, but the good news is Ocho does not have controlling interest in Utah athletics. It still belongs to the university, so that's good.
My question, and this will be information that will probably filter out in the months and maybe years to come, is my understanding is that PE, private equity, is a very bottom-line business. What does this look like if Utah football, Utah basketball, Red Rocks, what if they struggle in the next few years? Like this is something that you have to understand, that like when you're getting into business for hundreds of millions of dollars, this is going to be a bottom line business, meaning that your investors are going to want to see wins. They're going to want to see butts in the seats. They're going to want to see concession stands full. They're going to want to see jerseys flying off the racks. This is an interesting kind of position Utah could find itself in the coming years, because you're talking about a likely sea change with Kyle Whittingham stepping down. If and when that happens, we still don't know. Morgan Scalley will be a first-time head coach. Alex Jensen is a first-time college basketball coach. I understand the move because you had to have a response to what everything else is happening in the country, especially down south with your guys.
They are my guys.
Your guys.
Shout out Cookie Bro.
It's different, but it was an inevitability. And again, I'm just pretty stunned that it happened in our own backyard, first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some other schools that have had some smaller partnerships. This is the first of its kind.
Yep.
Now, it's the first of several that are going to unfold. In fact, the guy who took me to lunch actually said he was hearing Ohio State was going to be first at the table. Ohio State reported a $37 million debt last year. Colorado, $27 million in debt.
Yep.
So I think it's safe to assume and surmise a bit that this deal does indicate that there was some debt up on the hill that we haven't heard about. We didn't know about.
Well,
I don't know about their P&L or their.
Sure.
I haven't seen their financials, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some debt up there they needed to service.
In 2025, there are more athletic departments and universities in debt across the country than there are. I mean, if you just went through a fiscal year like read of most public universities, more often than not, you would find folks who are in the black or in the red. What is it? You know,
it would be in the red.
Okay,
but
you.
To your point that we cannot escape, and I want to be clear. I'm not trying to spin this. I'm trying to tell people to walk back from the edge, because not all private equity is created equal.
Wait, are people mad that this is happening?
Oh, people are panicked.
Huh.
Like, oh, it's the beginning of the end. Like, oh, our souls are dead.
It's the beginning of the end of what it used to be. And
that's been over for 5 years.
Agreed. But I think this could be viewed as an official exclamation mark to that era.
If you are still holding on to any sanctity of amateurism, then you're the problem.
And that's on you. Agreed. Yeah. It's time to grow up. I absolutely agree. My interest with this also aligns with if it is $500 million, where is that money going to? Is it going to coaching contracts, roster retention, stadium upgrades, facility upgrades? $500 million is a lot of money, and granted, I'm sure they're not going to get it all at one time unless you know otherwise. Like that, this is stuff that we will probably need to find out in the weeks and months to come. But how is Utah going to utilize all this money to best compete in this new landscape?
Yeah, when Taylor's in studio, I'm going to ask him all these questions, and hopefully he's willing to give us all the answers. But again, going back to the point that we cannot escape from, these guys are sharks. All of them are sharks. And there's an undeniable reality that
when you say sharks, I'm flipping it on you. Like you know these, a lot of these folks.
Yeah,
when you say sharks, what do you mean?
Well, I'll get there.
Yeah.
But the undeniable reality, according to these reports, their exit plan is in 5 to 7 years. Okay, so whether it's Utah football or Hilton Hotels or Hooters restaurants, like whatever it is, whatever you're investing in, chicken sandwich, easy, Jim Halpert. Whatever you're investing in, if you have an exit strategy that is in 5 to 7 years, if you're a private equity firm, you are expecting probably at least 8% return, at least that, in 5 to 7 years. So the point that you made about, well, what happens if Utah football suddenly is on hard times? What happens if we can't get people to the Huntsman Center? What happens if, like, all of those points are very, very fair, because as you outlined, The bottom line for all these guys is they're in this to make money. They're not in this because they love Utah athletics. They're not in this because they loved the Sugar Bowl in 2008. They don't give a rip about any of that. They give a rip about one thing, and that is the return they're going to see in 5 to 7 years. We can't escape that, to your point. And what I mean by sharks is they are in this to pad their already well-padded bank account so they can buy their 5th yacht or their 4th mansion on Long Island. These are just rich capitalists, dude. That's what they are.
So in the PE world, we call it an off-ramp, okay? I just want you to know.
I'm so proud of you.
It's called an off-ramp.
I'm so proud of you.
And I understand that these guys are not smashing Bird Ficklin tape. I get that.
Correct.
I get that. And if we do the math, 8% of $500 million in the next 5 to 7 years is $40 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah, and probably that's the low end of what they're expecting to get.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So lots of questions need answers. I'm with you on the if you are worried about the sanctity and the moral high ground of what college athletics represents, you're far behind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It change happens. It can be disheartening for a lot of people. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
My fear is this only lengthens the disparity between folks who can now afford to go to these games versus working class people who can no longer afford to take their son and daughter. And this is not specific to Utah, granted. This is something that we have an issue with in this country across the board at the pro and college level. These types of entertainment venues and spectacles are now being tailored to the uber wealthy, to the Loge folks, to the folks who maybe don't want to eat nachos and hot dogs, but who would prefer banh mi pork sliders. And you know that I crush banh mi pork sliders.
Who doesn't?
But I don't know if I'm crushing them at football games or, basketball games or whatever. I mean, this is very low-hanging fruit, and it's a bit of a segue, but with the World Cup draw being announced last week, started looking at tickets. My dad's from Iran, want to go watch Iran play. They have a great draw. They have
do,
2 games in L.A., 1 in Seattle.
I honed in on that because of you. I'm like, I wonder if my guy's going to go.
The cheapest ticket for an Iran-New Zealand World Cup game in L.A., how much right now? Upper deck.
I haven't looked at prices, but the way you're asking it, I'm going to guess $2,000.
Well, no. It's $600.
That's still ridiculous.
But lower bowl is $2,000. There's one seat on StubHub for that game, $40,000.
$40K?
$40K.
Oh my God.
So
for Iran, New Zealand, respectfully,
it's a banger game.
Respectfully,
at SoFi.
Yeah.
So
wow.
My worry is that once again, this is widening the scope of folks who are able to buy box seats, to buy what do we call them? Suites.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
Yeah.
Those are the folks that are going to historically fund your programs. Does that change? Now, this is something Nass Taylor. Does this change your pricing model? Does this allow you to not even necessarily price gouge the way previous universities felt like they had to in order to keep up? Does having a $500 million fiscal infusion allow you to maybe tone it down when it comes to pricing because you no longer are really, looking towards those big donor names that you've mentioned to say, like, we have to keep these folks happy in order they're going to cut more checks for us?
Yeah, I mean, there are typically 2 playbooks when it comes to a private equity merger, right? And one is to actually lower expenses, meaning do you move your merchandise creation to, and this will come in, tariffs now come into play, like, and will you move the factory that makes Utah athletics gear to Vietnam now, right? So it's just cheaper, right? So things like that. There is a playbook that would be lower costs. The more likely playbook, as you outlined, is, again, we have to keep in mind. Hey, Porter, real quick, will you hop on the mic and remind Chris what the golden rule is that we adhere to on the drive?
The man with the gold makes the rules,
That's
Chris.
the golden rule, Chris. We follow it on the drive, okay? So we have to keep in mind the man with the gold makes the rules, and even though Otra will not have the controlling stakes, they are giving you $500 million. They're going to want to say what's going on here. And again, keeping in mind that in 5 to 7 years, their exit plan will include a healthy return.
Off-ramp.
The more likely scenario is, as we've outlined, $500 million to infuse your teams with talent is a good thing. $500 million to pay players the way that Texas Tech and BYU can pay players right now is a good thing. Improving facilities, improving the experience. The consumer experience will look and feel different pretty quickly. So what does that mean on the other side? That you are going to be asked to pay more for your consumer experience. Tickets, food and bev, merch, parking, whatever the consumer experience involves now, with Utah Athletics, chances are will be more expensive. Where you tailgate, the lots that you pay for to tailgate, they're probably going to come up with some sort of consumer experience that involves licensing and suites, and you'll be asked to pay more for those. If you're a corporate sponsor right now at the University of Utah, just get ready for the phone call that says, hey, you paid us $200,000 for a presence at the stadium, a signage or whatever. That's now $400,000. So anything around Utah Athletics, the more likely playbook that this private equity firm is going to demand is everything gets more expensive.
The corner bakery cafe parking lot off Guardsman Way.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, 100%, all of it.
It's totally understandable, but simultaneously a little troubling in my mind to see where this could potentially go. But if anything, I think this turns up the heat on everybody within the athletic department in terms of if results don't happen, you're going to have to answer that bell maybe a little quicker than in years past.
100%.
Like, you're talking about a school that traditionally has given leeway to its coaches to kind of persevere and trudge through tough years to get through the other side, and more often than not they do, especially in football.
Mm-hmm.
But what does this mean for Morgan Scalley when he takes over? What does this mean for Alex Jensen and his, shiny 4 or 5 year contract, whatever he signed last year? These are questions that will need to be answered, because if you weren't able to get butts in the seats at the Huntsman Center before,
mm-hmm.
What do you do now?
Yeah.
How do you do it now?
Yeah.
If you have this $500 million marker on your back, if Utah football starts 2-4 next year and people start bailing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and your point about the basketball side is well taken, which is why I have to be led to believe, and I want to be very clear, there's so much of this that still needs to be reported. There's so much of this that needs to be uncovered. But based off of your point of the problematic nature of getting people to go to basketball games, this has to be so heavily laced in football. Mm-hmm. And, I was talking to Dave about this, our guy from America First Credit Union, and you know this. Live TV rights in college football have been on an upward trajectory for 25 years. That's not slowing down. That has to be the biggest portion of what these private equity guys see to make sure their investment is safe. Not like, hey, can we get 500 more people to go watch the basketball team? It's like, okay, what does the Big 12's TV network deal look like right now, and what will it look like in 5 years when they renegotiate? And is there a chance Utah gets the call for the Big 10? I'm not saying that that's going to happen. If Utah gets the Big 10 invite, these guys have made money hand over fist.
Off ramp.
So I wonder if Taylor and Mark, talking to the Otro guys, said, look, we actually believe in 2 to 3 years there will be a seismic shift, and either we're going to the Big 10 or this pro model that will manifest will include us. And if that happens, the valuation for Utah football will supersede $2 to $3 billion because of how valuable all the properties will be.
My guess would be that Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark is happy about this too, because he's been beating that drum in terms of being innovative and taking steps that other universities haven't taken in the past, starting with his, taking games overseas,
mm-hmm.
Partnering with the WWE, all this stuff. He's been pretty brash about being innovative.
Yep.
So
mm-hmm.
the fact that one of his schools has done this, and the fact that others will likely follow, will be able to put a feather in his cap, so to speak. But can we call it a gamble? Or is it
by who?
By everybody? Or is it a maybe distilled down to just a interesting business decision?
No. So I'm trying to and we'll catch a break, and we'll continue to pack this coming up on the other side. I just knowing the way these dudes operate, and knowing that this deal has been negotiated for months now, I can't see Otro looking at this as a gamble. They have to be viewing it as a very sound investment. I think if there's risk, it's on the other side.
Yeah.
I think if there's risk, it's on the side of the University of Utah, because you can't spin it any other way. If you're taking $500 million, things are going to change. They just are. So what sort of faith do you have in the community here that when the email inevitably starts spilling in to the season ticket holders saying, oh, by the way, 30% upcharge next year, how many people say yes and how many people say, I can't? I have budgetary limitations. These tickets were already expensive. I cannot afford to do what you're asking. If there's some sort of pushback from this community saying, I cannot invest in your athletic department because I just don't have the money, that's where it gets sticky. And then you bring into the other side of this where, according to both The Athletic and Yahoo, Ross Dellinger, they are making opportunities for people to buy into this, to invest with them, right? So you can actually write a check for, I don't know, $1 million, and you can get some shares in this.
As one does.
If you have the scratch, because they're starting a separate LLC, which is for profit. And if these reports are correct, Chris Camerani, Utah alum, maybe you get an email, say, hey, you got extra $1 million? Well, if you do, send it over. And then you get, I don't know, how many shares or pieces of equity in this new this project. And in 5 to 7 years, when we exit, you get paid. Right. And so is there enough money coming in that direction to make up for the fact that you might lose a lot of your season ticket holders who can't afford the upcharge that's coming their way?
Yeah, to me, it ultimately boils down to what we've been talking about on this show since it started is, to me, 95% of fans just want to be able to root for a product on the field. That's awesome. And they want to be able to brag to their friends who root for other teams and say, my team's cooler than yours. They want to be able to go to a stadium and say, I'm paying this money so I can watch this awesome team play. Now it's time to deliver. I don't think there's any. I think the days of wiggle room are vast.
Yeah.
Are vastly diminishing.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I don't feel like, Otro would take this partnership if they felt like there was tremendous risk. I do think if there's risk, it's on the other side. But we'll get back to this. Chris actually was able to talk to Cookie Bro, and there's an angle here where if you're a BYU booster, are you looking at what Utah just did and saying, wait a second, I'm not getting ROI. I just donated to the school, and what could that mean? We'll get to that. But my guy Dave from America First Credit Union is live in studio. A lot of money conversation on the show today, but this is good money because we want to get your money working for you. So make the switch from your branch or your bank to America First Credit Union. But Dave, we'll start here. America First Credit Union, the charitable foundation, the 31st annual Warm the Souls for Kids. What do we have going on? Let's get Dave's mic on. There you go. Sorry. Go ahead.
We're taking a break from the money and seeing how we can give back to our community. Spence, after we were in business for 50 years, we thought we need to do something else for our community. And so we formed the Community Assistance Program, where we identified programs that needed some support. We've started to create our own programs, but we've been involved with community support for quite some time. Our charitable foundation is deeply involved in helping those communities that are just maybe struggling. And we focus on things like food, clothing, shelter, safety, education, those types of things that everybody might experience at some point. So this is our 31st year of doing the Warm the Souls program. Warm the Souls really is just a way for us to provide a new pair of shoes to underprivileged children. And these are kids that have never had new shoes before. And we had an awesome experience. You mentioned John Kimball being on the show later on today. He was at this opportunity. We were at America First Field. We partnered with RSL and the Royals, and we bussed over an entire elementary school. 500 and almost 50 kids came over, and they were able to have a tour of the stadium, get some lunch, and then be outfitted with a new pair of shoes. And
Very cool.
See these kids that are just like, I've never had these before, and straighten your toes out. Well, that's not how I wear my shoes. It is now.
Yeah.
And they were just floating. And there was John right there along with other, executives and players and representatives from America First, tying these shoes on these kids, and just to see the smiles come to their faces, the joy. They were jumping and bouncing and running faster and jumping higher, and it was just such a cool experience. Last year, we donated over 4,000 pairs of shoes to 48 different schools and organizations across where we do our business. And our goal this year is just to ensure that no kid gets left behind. And so it's one of those heartwarming holiday traditions that we just love.
So tell me why you decided to go this route. shoes? What motivated you to just kind of hone in on this angle?
Yeah, shoes are important. You don't think about shoes, at least I didn't. I mean, I thought of new pair of shoes, but that was just one pair of shoes of many that I had in the closet. These are kids that wear hand-me-downs. These are kids that maybe wear their parents' shoes, and if they don't have shoes to wear, then they're not going to go to school. When they don't go to school, they're not learning. Or when they go to school with holes in their shoes, they get picked on. They get made fun of, and it just does not set that kid off for success. And that's where kids spend most of their time, is in school. And so if we can improve that experience for them by a simple pair of shoes, lifting their spirits, giving them some self-confidence, boosting the morale, it's so good. And these are athletic shoes because, it's not only walking to school, but it's also participating in gym and the extracurricular activities they might be involved in, or after-school activities. And so, we'd love to be able to provide this opportunity, and that's why we engage the community. We have a QR code. If you're not a member of America First, you can scan that QR code on our website and donate. If you are a member, you can bring in a donation to a branch, or you can make an online donation through mobile or online banking. And this year, we're also allowing tangible donations as well. If members want to bring in a new pair of athletic shoes, we'll accept those and add those to the shoes that we're providing for these kids. So we found that shoes make a difference.
So it started November 1st, but we have until December 31st. As Dave referenced, you can go into any branch, new shoes only. There's a QR code at americafirst.com/donate. So definitely stop by and help out. Dave, good to see you, man. We'll chat in a bit.
Thanks, Spence.
All right, we'll catch a break. More with CK coming up next on ESPN 700. Chris Camerati live in studio, just jamming to some Dave on a Tuesday. No big deal. Satellite, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Up. All the way up.
Big satellite guy.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's not really a deep track.
It's a fringe track.
A fringe track.
Right? It's one where at minute 8, you kind of feel like, okay, we can do this for another 8 minutes. And then minute 16, you're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. No, you have to stick with the 3 bridges.
Exactly.
And they really take it home at the end. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. All right. Of course, the majority of today's show will be about this piece of news that came out earlier today with the University of Utah entering into what could be a $500 million equity partnership with Otro Capital out of Manhattan, out of New York. It's shared ownership of a for-profit entity that's very important to keep in mind to operate athletics, namely football, basketball, and gymnastics. You talked to Cookie Bro. You were able to get my guy,
Your
Cookie
guy.
Bro. He is my guy.
I thought about you.
Did you share my joke that if a cookie came to human form, he would look? That's what a human cookie looks like.
I did not because I'm a professional journalist.
Fair
and
enough.
I have to remain with some semblance of standards, and you can't fault somebody who's going out of their way to talk to you.
Yes,
that's not necessarily a way to, improve your persona.
Yes.
as a professional journalist. But I thought of you.
Do you feel like you give me the same respect you gave Cookie Bro?
Well, yeah, you're a journalist.
I'm more of an entertainer. That's why I can make
are you?
jokes.
Okay.
That's why I can make jokes.
That's because you know about PE.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Off ramps as we've been over. But one angle here is if it's Jason, what's his name? Jason
McGowan.
If you're Jason McGowan, if you're Ryan Smith, if you're Danny Ainge, if you're any of the names that have been linked to donating money to BYU, it's a different setup.
Yeah.
So what Utah has announced is the potential of an Eccles, a Huntsman, a Garf, or whoever the rich folk are around here that want to invest into Utah athletics. Essentially, and look, I need to be careful here because I don't know if this is how it is articulated, but my guess would be, hey, instead of just donating to the Crimson Collective, you can invest with us, with Otros. You can invest in this product, and then you can make some money on the back end. So you can own a piece of what we're doing. With BYU, that's not how it's working. Whether it's Jason or Ryan or Danny, they're just donating to the school because they love the school, because they love athletics, and they want to see BYU thrive and the message of the LDS Church to be moved forward. I just wonder how this news would be met down there. Do you think anybody's going, wait a second, let's figure out a way where our powerful, rich donors can actually own a piece of what we do?
I don't know, because the powerful, rich donors at BYU, I think across the board, just have more money combined than those.
Yeah, they might not even need to do something like that.
They operate in the B's, billions, and these are individuals, and I think there might be one or two of those associated with Utah. BYU has quite a few, and not to mention, I think they kind of have the ultimate in-state trump card, if they want to use it, is they are funded by a religious institution that has a ton of money.
Yeah, I think they're doing all right with their investments.
So, and if we learned anything within the last week, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does care about BYU athletics in the wake of retaining Kalani Sitake, after we were told for years that church doesn't, isn't that involved in BYU and doesn't necessarily worry about, the athletic department and how it kind of represents itself as one of the flagship public-facing members of the church. Anyways, I don't necessarily think this is a, press the alarm, 5-alarm fire type deal for BYU, just because I think they're two totally different fan bases, donor bases. You're talking about one that has a $1 billion cookie industry. You're talking about a dude who owns 2 professional sports franchises in this state. I would assume that you'll eventually see something like this at every school. I don't think that in the wake of last week and BYU puffing its chest and saying we were able to spend money and retain Kalani and everybody came together, I don't think that's diminished. I don't think the glow is faded at all. I think the glow is faded because they lost to Texas Tech. But seeing this, I don't think necessarily takes a win out of their sails.
I agree with you, and I think the bigger point, if you're BYU, is you don't need this model. Utah needed it.
Yep.
If we're honest, Utah needed it. And I think where a lot of people are panicking today, if you're a Ute fan, you really should look at this with somewhat of a positive light, because the question has been like, well, wait a second, who's our Cody Campbell? Who's our Ryan Smith? Who's our Cookie Bro? And while I feel like there have been a lot of Utah donors and boosters that don't go to social media to say, hey, look at me, I'm going to pay a fine that wasn't real, on their Twitter accounts and be a little front-facing about that.
Are you going after the cookie guy?
I think a lot of them just are fine operating behind the scenes. But again, I cannot read this announcement any other way than it was out of necessity. I do believe it is an inevitability, and we're going to hear more deals like this. But I think to your point about BYU, they might just be like, we don't need to do this. Like, we're fine with what we have.
Do you have a problem with Jason McGowan saying he'd pay for the storming
The
field
thirst
fine?
trap was a little weird.
Listen, man, he actually didn't end up having to pay for it because the Big 12 rescinded the fine.
Correct. That's why I said it wasn't even real. Yeah.
But he paid for a lot of in-state school lunch debt for kids who.
Which is awesome.
So
shout out Cookie Bro.
Okay, thank you.
Did he send out a video of him sending the check-in, or just curious?
One thing that you need to ask Taylor about is how does this affect the Crimson Collective? Does the Crimson Collective still even exist?
Absolutely.
Because in the wake of the House settlement this summer, a lot of collectives at schools basically just folded.
My guess
they were
would
like,
be, yeah.
They were like, we don't necessarily need to be part of the equation anymore.
Yeah.
Now, some have, but another interesting part of this whole thing is the CSC, the College Sports Commission, NIL Go. How is something like this going to affect, quote unquote, the cap that may or may not be, enforced? Everything is a moving target because nobody is in charge of anything.
Right.
And to your point, this is something that Utah needed in order to compete with the Blue Bloods. Again, I don't know how many answers we'll get in the short term, because we'll have to see how they go through various transfer portal cycles, recruiting cycles, what their budget is in terms of spending on actual football, basketball, women's basketball, gymnastics rosters is. That stuff's going to be interesting, and they're a public institution. So eventually those numbers, I think, will be made public.
The other angle here, because we've been discussing, according to the reports, it's football, it's basketball, and it's gymnastics, right? So the good news is, because, again, we're going to continue to repeat the bottom line, that these guys, Otro, the new partners, new private equity group that is now partnered with the University of Utah, are expecting in 5 to 7 years to exit with a lot of money as a result of what they're giving now. So because they simply operate off the bottom line and what's profitable and what isn't, and how do we make what isn't profitable, the fact that they didn't include these other sports does not make them a line item. Meaning when these guys come to the table.
You would hope.
Well, it can't, because it's not part of it. So when these guys come to the table, like if you included soccer and softball and track and field in this partnership, they'd sit down and say, it doesn't make money, no more.
Right.
But what this allows is football, basketball, gymnastics, and this money to bankroll the other sports that aren't revenue generators. So that's a piece of good news. Like that, I think a lot of people have assumed in the wake of all of this capital being infused into college athletics, it will be at the expense of the products that don't make money, because that's how private equity works.
Well, and if you remember, there was an unfortunate kind of operating in tandem of during the peak COVID pandemic, a lot of universities across the nation decided to cut a lot of these non-revenue generating sports because seasons were altered. They basically couldn't play. The debt was piling up within athletic departments and universities nationwide. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but Stanford tried to cut a bunch of sports that were not revenue generating sports, but at a school like Stanford, you're always churning out Olympians.
Yeah, that's true.
In all of these very small Olympic
that's
sports.
A good point, yeah.
It happened at a handful of schools. If you're Utah, if you're an alumnus who played baseball, if you're an alumnus who played softball, this is I would imagine this is good news, because we can't lose sight, and this is definitely me high horsing it right now. Like, yes, basketball, football, and even at a school like Utah, gymnastics make money, and I get that, but that's not all it is. Like, I got my start as a beat writer at the Daily Utah Chronicle covering track and field in 2007.
Yeah.
That was my job. I had to go to track practice every day. So, like, in a world where track doesn't exist at a school like Utah, I might not have a job, and I might not get to where I'm at right now. Like, there's a trickle-down effect that, like, not only impacts folks, student athletes, coaches, but a significant amount of members in the community as well. And
I think the angle that you're bringing up is one of the things that a lot of people are a little bit worried about, as far as, losing the things that make collegiate athletics special. Just the ability, like, not everybody plays football, not everybody plays basketball or gymnastics. Like, you want the ability, if your kid is a cross-country athlete, or if your kid's a softball player, soccer player, you want him to potentially be able to do that in college at the University of Utah. You don't want everything to go away. And again, as we explore the dangers of the future, if you read the tea leaves with all this money coming in, there is a chance that the people that are writing the checks will only want to back the things that generate revenue, because that ups the bottom line, and therefore they'll be able to exit with a lot of money. So when I read that portion of this agreement, I actually took it as tremendous good news that if you are a fan of Utah soccer or Utah baseball or
shout
Utah,
out Beth Lanier.
Shout out Beth Lanier, the legend, certainly. Friend of the program, by the way.
Yep.
It appears that you're in good hands. You're safe. You are not in danger of being cut, even though you don't generate revenue for both the institution and now your new private equity partners.
And I would assume that you're also able to maintain enough healthy, viable financial options through your boosters that if you need folks to donate to those sports specifically in the NIL landscape, because it's not like baseball players aren't getting paid in college baseball.
Right.
Like the best team in college baseball last year, LSU, paid a lot of money for that team.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you want to remain competitive, you're still going to have to find a way to pay your players, even in those sports that aren't necessarily revenue generating.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to the magic bullet of, like, a Cody Campbell saying, yeah, go pay $1 million for that softball pitcher and we'll go to the College World Series. You need somebody that, like a Dale Murphy type who loves baseball, who can call these people and say, look, I want to buy into this, but my $5 million goes to the baseball program, right? Otherwise, the majority of this revenue will go to the sports that generate revenue. But because there's enough revenue that's generated in cash infusion, if you're not on the revenue generating side, it does appear that you're safe. But I wonder, one of the things that I think is a little bit, well, A, it's fluid, and B, it's kind of unknown. So on one side, you have the ability to partner with Utah and Otro. Okay, you can buy into the project. You can buy equity into it. You can buy shares or whatever it is. And then when the exit happens, you have the ability to make money on the other side. So there will be a portion of our community that already has been asked or will be given the opportunity to have a partnership in that direction. But what I don't know the answer to is the portion of our community that's not in that group that gets the email that your season tickets are now 30% more. Oh, you like the tailgate? Well, it cost, I don't even know. We'll just say it cost $20,000 last year. It cost $50,000 this year. What will be the response of that portion of our community? Because I do think that's a portion that needs to be serviced and taken care of. And when it comes to the shark nature of this stuff, they're fine feasting on the people. And if you don't want to be a part of it, sorry, if you can't afford it, we're just going to kick you aside.
So I should have sent you this story earlier. Last month, my colleague Matt Baker and I,
shout out,
mainly Matt, did a story on the rising costs of college athletics for fans. But Matt is based in Florida. He covers Florida State, Miami. And we told it through the lens of Florida State fan who, her name was Ann, retired school teacher, like 83 years old. Been going to games for like 60 years, and she's priced out. And like her kids, who are in their 50s and 60s, were like, Mom loves the Seminoles more than anybody in the world. We can't afford to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So not only can you potentially, and I'm not saying this is going to happen at Utah, but when you potentially price out one family member, you can price out an entire family. Like generations are affected by this stuff because kids who are lucky enough to grow up going to games or watching games on TV want to continue to be involved with their fandom, whether it be in person or on TV. How are those folks affected when the bottom line comes? That's what I mentioned earlier last segment. Like you have to not necessarily placate to the folks who are eating the banh mi sliders. And I understand that you have to, because those are the folks that are paying money for the expensive seats and help you, get out of the red, not the black.
There you go. You got it.
But there are how many seats at Rice Eccles Stadium now? Like 48?
Yeah, like something like that, yeah.
How many of those folks are not doing the banh mi sliders?
The majority
exactly.
of them.
Yeah.
The other piece of danger here, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but we have to kind of discuss all the layers here and the other possibilities. I can promise you that when it comes to these new partners, when it comes to Ocho Capital, that Alex Shiner isn't back in Manhattan wondering what the experience of the must looks like. They don't give a rip. There's a chance the student section is also approached differently. There's a chance that they're moved, and there's a chance that they're asked to pay a lot more than they're being paid right now for the tickets. Your private equity partner isn't concerned about how the must looks on television. They'll look at that section when they're watching a Utah football game and say, how much are we charging them?
Third down jump.
And how much can we upcharge them, and what's that line look like? Because we want them there, but we also want them to pay more money. And then what do the students say if suddenly the student deal just goes away? Because that's a possibility.
So you're doing a really good job of, last segment you said the world isn't ending, but right now you're also painting it like, ooh, it could potentially be a little icky.
Well, there's good to this, and there's potential danger. And
the truth always lies somewhere where?
In the middle. And I'll continue to say that your consumer experience is going to look different, and you are going to be asked to pay more for your consumer experience. If you want an example, when's the last time you went to a Jazz game? Okay, so Ryan Smith, his private equity partners, they come over, they take over from the Millers. And initially it's like, well, we're not going to change much. They changed everything. They changed the building. They changed the team. They changed the personnel. So are you enjoying the Jazz experience? Maybe you enjoy the new building. Maybe you enjoy the new suites. Maybe you enjoy the upgraded food. The team sucks. Okay, so things are going to change when new ownership and new money is involved. And I don't know what that looks like for Utah yet. Only time will tell.
But at least it's the Delta Center.
And it is the Delta Center. It is the Delta Center. Yeah, I mean, look, corporate sponsorships will change. Like the feel around the stadium is going to change. Things are going to be different. I'm not running from that.
Well, and again, all of this, you can distill this down to the results will matter now more than ever, because people are not going to pay an arm and a leg to go watch a team that either can't run the ball or can't stop the run or is not playing a, enticing brand of football on either side of the ball. This just not going to happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Lived here a long time. I've seen sports fans leave Utah when Utah's bad. I've seen them leave BYU when they're bad, and they've left the Jazz when they're bad.
Yep.
You got to prove it to them.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a state that's just going to show up for the sake of showing up.
You're right.
It is just not, and I don't blame them.
Yeah. No, you're right. A relevant fact of the day, Alex Shiner, the partner and co-founder of Ocho Capital, went to the same high school as Kobe Bryant. There you go. Lower Marion.
Oh.
It means nothing.
I think we know somebody else who went to high school.
I don't think we do. But, all right, last thing, Chris. Texas Tech's best team in the Big 12 have been all year. Were you surprised to see them just curb stomp BYU?
The game was uglier than BYU played. And I'm not making excuses because Texas Tech is the superior team. They have the superior defense. BYU's defense played phenomenally in both those games.
They did.
Despite having the score being so one-sided. I think my colleague Chris Vanini at some point in the third or fourth quarter said, out of 10 red zone trips that Texas Tech had against BYU in the two games that they've played, they'd scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And that was before the third and fourth turnover. So
that's
maybe that changed, but you're taking a true freshman quarterback against one of the best defenses in the country, and as soon as Bear got hurt, as soon as he rolled his ankle, it was over.
Yep.
Because you're not going to put in McKay Hillstead, who's seen not 0 minutes this year, against a front four that has 4 future pros on it. It is what it is. I'm going to give Clark Lee, Vanderbilt head coach, a whole lot of praise. He said, we only have one team to blame for being left out of the playoff. That's us. Because we lost the games that we should have won.
Yeah.
If they would have beat Alabama, they would have been in. If BYU would have beat Texas Tech one time, they would have been in.
Mm-hmm.
If Utah would have beat BYU or Texas Tech,
yep,
would have been in.
No, you're not wrong.
We need to stop casting the blame elsewhere, man. Grow up. Who are these people?
Mm-hmm.
I have to teach my 3-year-old how to lose, and these guys can't figure out a way to do it, and they're making millions of dollars? Come on. Man.
Yeah, we always want someone to blame, CK. Well, look, you traversed the space beautifully. Your Succession binge watching paid off to be able to speak the financial language. Thanks for the time, man.
I was going to send you the GIF of it's inappropriate.
Well,
I'll send it to you.
Send it to me. Just remember I'm on air live until 6. All right, before we
6?
catch you. Goodbye, Chris. Before we catch a break, my guy Dave, America First Credit Union, live in studio. Is all of this financial conversation, are your eyes glossing over? Is this boring for you?
No, this is intriguing. You know, I'm a Utah fan.
Uh-huh.
I love the Crimson. It's heartwarming to know, but it makes me uneasy.
I think it's fair. Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you think about if there's an 8% return, it's $540 million. They got to be able to give back.
Yeah.
And if they're out in 5 to 7 years, how's that stuff all going to work? So it's intriguing to me to see how it's going to work. But yeah, it's about dollars.
Yeah.
And that's a tough prospect for our community, I think.
I wonder, since you're a Utah fan, let me ask you this question. Would your consumer experience change when you're watching your college football team and you realize that essentially they're just professional athletes wearing the Utah red that you love, as opposed to Alex Smith or Brian Johnson, you know, that you knew they were here for 3-4 years, they loved Utah football, and now you're more or less watching mercenaries just wearing the colors that you cheer for? Does that change the experience?
It does. I think for me personally, what's changed sports for me is probably NIL and fantasy.
Yeah.
I grew up cheering for a team, cheering for a color, cheering for a squad, cheering for everybody. And now it seems to be more about individuals.
Yeah.
And so that's changed it for me. And so the jersey that you get could be obsolete in a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We'll dig back into this, but it's Tuesday today, but we're going to talk about Fridays, America First Fridays. Dave, tell us about it.
Oh, this is something that we started this year, Spence, that is really a great deal for sports fans. You know, when we talk about the cost of sports and what it takes to have a family experience, we dialed into that and said, how can we help lift? And so we have great partners with Utah Mammoth and the Utah Jazz to help improve that experience. So we have these America First Fridays, where the first Friday of every month we launch a new deal. And we're so grateful for the Mammoth and Jazz for helping us do this. So last Friday, we launched a great deal where we can get some exclusive offers and exclusive deals for a Mammoth game. This Mammoth game, you can enjoy this deal if you're a member of America First. It's not for the general public, and so this is a member deal only. But you can get single goal view tickets to watch Utah Mammoth go head-to-head against the Winnipeg Jets on December 21st.
Nice.
What an awesome Christmas present that you could give your kids when you just need a deal and you want to go see the Mammoth play. So Tusk's up for that one.
Very nice. And then as far as the Jazz side of things, you also released a new Jazz debit card that's very handsome as well, yeah?
Oh, that's a pretty card,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is our second purple card. I believe this is our 5th affinity card that we've done. But it's pretty. It's really nice and pretty. And so, the Jazz are also on board with offering these exclusive America First member deals. And so you can get some tickets. One of those offers was already played on Sunday, December 7th, against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So there's 2 more games that you can get some deals on. For the December 15th against the Dallas Mavericks, and then December 20th against the Orlando Magic. And so these are fantastic offers that you get when you're a member of America First. In addition to those ticket offers, and it'll be different every month, this month you can also enter to win a $250 team gift card, team store gift card.
It's a lot of money. Christmas on the way, too.
Yeah, go get you a jersey, go get you some team merch. That's pretty awesome. So we're excited for this. Become a member of America First. Watch out for those deals. The next deal's coming up on January 6th, so it's always that first Friday of the month.
Why is it good to be a member? Simple question for you, Dave. Why is it good to be a member of America First Credit Union?
Yeah, we strive to provide the very best products and services to help you out financially. But beyond the financial security and stability, we want to provide you with a sense of trust in who you do your finances with. And that's what we strive to do. That's what we've strived to do for the last 86 years, is to provide some of that financial stability. In addition to that, we look for ways where we can benefit the community. We benefit you. We benefit your kids. We benefit through, we talked about the Warm the Souls. but also food donations, backpack donations. We do this awesome scholarship program all throughout the year where we're benefiting kids that are just awesome. And it makes them strive to be better. It helps them look for ways that they can give back to their community, be a leader, be studious, and improve their situation in life so that they're going to be set, in their employment and their careers. And so it's great to be a part of that, and we welcome anybody to come and be a part of America First.
Join America First Credit Union today to unlock and take advantage of these offers and many great deals. Be on the lookout for the next America First Friday offer on January 2nd, 2026. But you have a chance to go to the Jazz Mavericks game with Cooper Flagg. Orlando's a really good team. And then the Utah Mammoth with the Winnipeg Jets in town on December the 21st. Go to AmericaFirst.com for more information or stop by any of their 90-plus Utah locations today. Dave, you're the man.
Thanks, Spence.
All right, we'll catch a break. More coming up on the other side on ESPN 700. All right, we've got Andy Larson joining us from the Trib. We'll do a little jazz today. John Kimball, president of Real Salt Lake, is going to join us. The up-to-date situation on Lionel Messi joining the market. We've done college football. For the first hour and 40 minutes of the show, of course, the big news today about Utah Athletics partnering with a new private equity firm. We'll get back to that. But our friends at the Fierce Fighting Championships are live in studio once again. The founder, Zach Partridge. How are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. And then the broadcaster, Blake Aurelian. What's up, Blake?
Happy to be here, man. Thanks
Good to see you guys as always. All right. Educate me, Zach, about the card. What's the most exciting thing about this card coming up on Friday?
This card is a really unique one. The balance difference of we have a bunch of fighters. We have 12 fighters making their amateur debut. So this is their first time that they've ever made this walk. So most cards, there's a few debuters, and then there's some established amateurs, then early on pros, and then the veteran pros. This card, the way it just kind of like worked out is it's front loaded with a bunch of amateur debuters, which those fights are sometimes the most exciting because you don't know what you're going to get with those guys. And then at the top of the card, we have probably the pound for pound top 1 or 2 fighters in the entire state with Joel Haro.
Oh, cool.
So it's that, and it's kind of everything in between. Got a couple amateur title fights. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, the debuters, sometimes they're my favorite ones because you get these guys in the room that maybe the coaches don't know if they're ready. So a lot of it's just throw them in there and let's see. And they usually are. And they it's that fight or flight thing. And most of them just fight and they do really well. And they end up being some of the best fights on the card.
Now, you're a fighter too. So when it comes to like ignorance is bliss type dynamic, maybe you're just, I don't mean this disrespectfully.
No.
You're just too dumb to know that you're in danger. So just go do your thing.
You're pretty well inept to know that the type of danger, like if you're training at the gyms that, they're at locally getting ready for these fights. I mean, at least at our gym, I'll never forget my first card was almost 8 years ago this week. Yeah, it was 8 years ago this weekend was my first fight.
Did you know what you were getting into?
Kind of, but but also I was one of I think it was the first or second fight on the card, just like these guys are.
Okay.
My main event was Ben Moa.
You fought Ben Moa?
No, he was the main event.
Oh, okay.
And he's one of my teammates. Ben Moa is one of my teammates that I train with.
He's a good guy to have your back.
So, going through the process with somebody like Ben made it a lot easier. But, I mean, the whole time I just kept trying to remind myself every time I'd get kind of freaked out. Because you do. You're sitting in the back and, dude, it is an experience unlike any other.
I bet.
And, but I just kept telling myself, I'm like, well, this guy, no matter what, he's not going to hit me as hard as Ben. Because I went through the whole camp with Ben, and he beat the crap out of me. So it's just a lot of you kind of know, but MMA is growing and it's becoming more popular, and so these guys do know more and more what they're getting themselves into. You just don't know until the ref goes, "Are you ready?" You don't know if you have that in you and if you're ready.
Yeah, but Blake, tell me about Joel Haro, who, as Zach was just outlining, the #1 MMA prospect in Utah. What sort of fighter is he?
No, I actually got the chance to interview him just a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking, and I kind of said, you are the guy out of Utah right now, 6'2", 31 years of age, has a whole bunch of knockouts, and is one of the most electrifying strikers that you will ever see on any landscape in this sport. So he has been kind of one of the top guys in Utah for a while, but right now is really his time to go if he wants to make it to that next level, which, again, he told me it's basically UFC or bust at this point. So Friday night's going to be a big test for him. 140
pounds catch weight, that's what that's called. When it comes to, 3 rounds, 5 minutes, when it comes to his opponent, tell me about Owen Robinette, who he's up against.
Yeah, Owen Robinette out of Montana, 20 fights over the course of the last 4 years between his amateur and professional career. A 92% submission rate between his amateur and pro careers, and as a pro, he's only submitted guys. So he certainly poses some problems for a guy like Joel Haro, who is such a good striker. Owen Robinette also coming in on a couple weeks' notice, a little bit of a late replacement. That all being said, he brings a cyclone of submission attacks, so really excited to see him as well.
What do you make of the matchup, Zach, when it comes to Joel taking on Owen?
So it's really interesting. So I've actually cornered a couple of times against Owen. Owen's fought one of my teammates a couple of times. And that's how I got to know him and come to like him and respect him, right? I've watched He fought one of the top prospects in Utah and one of my teammates. And when I reached out to Owen, that's why it's 140 catch weight. I'm not a fan of catch weights generally.
Can you help me understand what that means?
So every fighter has weight classes, right?
Okay,
so
yeah.
Flyweight's 125. Joel is he's a 135 bantamweight.
Okay.
So he weighs in at 135. Owen has been fighting anywhere from 45 to 55, making his way down to 35 right now.
Oh, okay.
That's where he knows he needs to be. Little short notice for him to diet down and prep his body to be able to make the 135-pound limit. Last thing you want to do when you take a fight on short notice is come in and miss weight and give up part of your purse, which is a penalty for pros, just like you see in the UFC. You miss weight, you give up a percentage of your purse to the opponent. He doesn't want to. He said, "I've never cut to 35. I don't want to do it on short notice."
Mm-hmm.
We agreed on 140-pound catch weight with Joel Haro.
Okay.
He's scrappy. He's fun, and like he's game. He's there for it. You want to talk about these amateurs that don't know what they're getting themselves into? Kids like Owen Robinette. This is like him and his older brother, who's a very good welterweight prospect at 170 pounds. They've been raised through this. They eat, breathe, sleep this. They go to the gym together every day. His wife trains with him. Like this is his life, and he is just scrappy as all get out. So for somebody like Joel that likes to, Joel has a really clean, smooth, pretty style. He's electric. We just dropped a promo. He is the master of spinning back elbow. He's highlight reel after highlight reel with spinning elbows. And, Owen's the type of kid that he likes to be in your face, make it ugly, make it like a scrap. So very interesting matchup stylistically. And
you said he has 6 fights or 8 fights in 6 and 2?
Yep.
And Owen, did you say has 20 fights?
Blake said between his amateur and pro career.
Okay.
So 4 and 3 is a professional.
4 and 3 is a professional.
Pretty extensive amateur career.
So Owen, I'll go to you on this one. I don't know who Zeke Latu is. He just sounds dangerous.
Oh, he most certainly is.
Okay.
He is an absolute tank. 6 and 4, the pro record. All wins by finish, 5 of them by knockout. He's coming off a 13-second knockout at the Maverick Center in August. This guy packs so much power behind every single punch. And when he wins, he celebrates by pounding both of his fists in the center of the cage.
Nice.
And being cage side, you can literally feel a ripple from the power that this guy possesses. So always exciting to see Zeke Latu inside of any cage. And this is his first time at the Masonic Temple. Typically, he fights the Maverick Center, but being in that smaller, confined space, it's going to be really interesting. I feel like the audience might feel and hear some more of the power that he has.
How big did you say he was?
He's a heavyweight, so he walks around anywhere between 235 and 260 is typically where he tips the scales at.
All right, you don't want to get hit by Zeke Latu.
Closer to 260.
Yeah, he's a big fighter.
Tell me, Zach, about the opponent. Jared Torgensen is who he's up against.
Yeah, that's what we're trying. So this is Jared's another late replacement. We're still in the final stages of trying to complete it for this weekend. We're live in the mix right now. So there's a whole lot that goes on to it. Zeke's original opponent, unfortunately, has 40-plus fights, has fought tons of people, has ghosted us. And as of Monday, has gone radio silent on us.
Do you think he saw a video of Zeke and was like,
You know
I'm
what?
good.
Honestly, most people, yes, but a guy like this, no. But there's no telling. Like, the fighters are they're their own creatures in a lot of ways, and you don't know what's going on in their personal life. Just like you see these jazz players, right? And you might know if something seems off. You might know what's going on in their personal life. Everybody else doesn't. Fighters are no different.
Sure.
And fighting in front of a crowd when there's a bunch of other distractions going on and the consequences are getting separated from consciousness, the stress is just a little bit different. And unfortunately, his first opponent just, for whatever reason, whatever's going on in his life, decided that fighting wasn't the time, and his answer to that was just go radio silent.
Yeah.
But Jared is one of those guys that fighting's like an ecosystem. You have to have those guys that are willing to step in on short notice. We're working through details with contracts, athletic commission, medicals, all that type of stuff, try to sort it out. But Jared's game is as they get. He's been around. He has almost 50 fights himself as a pro. Very experienced, crafty veteran type.
Faced UFC guys.
Yeah, a couple UFC guys, and has some wins over some really good guys. So if we can get this done, and that does be our co-main event, in fact, it'll be a lot of fun. If not, we will see Zeke probably the first part of 2026.
Very nice. What are the I'm reading that there are titles at stake. So what are the title fights on the card?
So the first one is Dante Morales versus Dietrich Jessup. Dante is an undefeated flyweight prospect here in Utah. He's from Miami originally, moved out here, and he's probably one of the top 3 amateur prospects in the state.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I think that's without question. He nobody's figured out how to beat him yet, and he's pretty good. He's beaten some guys that have gone on that it's like he beat him early on, and we realized how well those wins have aged.
Mm-hmm.
Just really tough, durable, all around. Like he's just. I mean, we use the phrase he's just a dog. Like he's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like he likes to get in the mix. Challenger Dietrich Jessup, a young man that I've trained with, we've watched him grow up since he was 18. He's fought most of his amateur career with us at Fierce, and he wants to go pro, but the one thing he hasn't captured is I believe he's 0-2 in title fights.
Okay.
Before he goes pro, he wants to capture that title, and he's every bit the challenger for this. I think it's going to be a great matchup to kick off our main card.
And then Blake, we'll go to you on this one. Michael Pfeiffer, Lane Dalton. Looks like it's a middleweight title. 5 rounds, 3 minutes. So the additional rounds, is that because it's a championship fight?
Correct,
okay.
Correct. And I won't bury the lead here. I think this is the most excited I've ever been for an amateur fight at Fierce Fighting Championship.
Oh, really? Okay.
Lane Dalton is an unbelievable prospect out of Eagle, Idaho. He's 5-1 and 1 no contest. He hasn't lost since September of 2023. On the flip side, Michael Pfeiffer, he hasn't lost since his debut years ago as well. So Pfeiffer is the bigger, longer 6'4" prospect at middleweight. Lane Dalton is our current amateur welterweight champion, and so he's moving up a weight class, and he's looking to be one of 3 ever in Fierce FC history to claim that double champ status. And when you talk to Lane, he is so certain of how this fight is going to play out. He's more so of a grappler, but also has very strong punching power. And then Michael Pfeiffer is kind of crafty, a lot like Joel Haro, really fun. His striking is beautiful, but also knows how to keep it on the feet, and that 6'4" frame really poses a lot of problems for people. So all in all, the matchup is just kind of perfect here on paper, and so both guys think that they have everything that it takes to get the job done. We'll just see how it plays out on Friday night.
Is this rundown you're giving me in order of how the fights? So the main card is right off the top.
No. So it's bottom up.
Bottom up. Okay, I was going to say that would be a different approach because you don't want people to bounce after watching the better fights. All right, one more hit from each of you. Zach, we'll go to you. Just as far as the other fighters who we haven't highlighted, give me 1 or 2 that stand out to you and why.
So I'm going to go to the amateur heavyweight matchup. We have 2 amateur heavyweights that are making their amateur debuts. Ethan
Ojukwu.
There you go. Go to the broadcaster. That a kid.
And Byron Sneed. These 2. So when we're matching former college football players, Byron Sneed, his coach came to me and he goes, I have this guy. He's 6'5", about 270, ready to fight. And I'm like, that's a giant human.
Yeah.
So I go, I do a little Google research, played football at South Alabama State, physically imposed. And I'm like, guys like this, you can't really match them up with another debuter because they're just an elite level athletes in MMA. It's just a little different. A little Ben Moa-esque, right?
Sure.
We haven't seen him in the cage, but that's where Ben comes from, right?
Yeah.
Football player in transition. So I'm sitting there going, I can't just give him to another guy making his debut. And his coach is like, well, fighter, he's pretty green. I'm like, yeah, but he's pretty athletic and probably hits really hard. I'm like, let me find something. And then I hear about your friend, Sean O'Connell, and, we were just on with, and a couple other guys that we have trained with this Ethan kid who is 6'4", 250 with a 6-pack, played college basketball, doing standing backflips at the gym, things like that.
Oh, just a raw athlete. Okay.
Freak athlete. Okay. And I was like, I've got the perfect guy for these guys to make their debuts against each other. So we have 2 college athletes, 1 basketball, 1 football, that are both freak athletes at real heavyweights. A lot of heavyweights are kind of a little softer in the midsection and eventually going to find their correct weight class. These 2 real heavyweights, I think, for me, on the amateur side of things with debuters, that's what I'm the most excited about.
And I'll say this really quickly. I apologize. I've joked about this. If you were to go into AI and prompt, create an MMA fight poster of 2 MMA heavyweights, you would get what these 2 guys look like. I mean, they look like superheroes, Spence. So very excited for that one.
No, I just pulled up a picture of Byron Sneed. He's a beast. That is a big, big boy. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, one more hit from each of you. Let's just sell the experience. Blake, let's start with you. The atmosphere, the environment, the Masonic Temple. Why should people show up on Friday night?
It's an unbelievable event, and we're already tracking to do very well, potentially a sellout on Friday night. And when that place is packed, there is literally no other viewing experience like it in all of sports in Utah. So if you can get a ticket, you might want to be sitting in your seats throughout the entirety of these 14 fights because it is going to be loud from the very top. I mean, that Ethan Ojukwu, Byron Sneed fight, there's a lot of people coming out for that one. Joel Haro, so many people are in his corner. And so very excited to see a lot of local talent. And that all being said, Friday just can't get here soon enough.
Zach, final word is yours. You're the founder. You're the driving force behind the Fierce Fighting Championships. Why should people show up?
Not founder. I'm the COO. I run it. But
Fair enough.
Cody Bunderson's the founder.
Shout out to Cody.
Got to give Cody the credit. But fiercefightingchampionship.com. Since we've gotten this straightened away too, if you go to fiercefightingchampionship.com for tickets, put in promo code ESPN at checkout for $5 off on your ticket.
Nice.
For every ticket that goes. So there's that. Like I said, I tell everybody, if you haven't seen MMA live before, come give it a try, because if you do, you will get hooked. You will enjoy the event. I promise. If you don't, come find me. We'll make it right somehow. But you're going to love it. It's a great thing for Friday night. Come out. You have R&R barbecue there. We have drinks. We have everything. It's a good time. Come watch. We have stack card 13, 14 fights. It's going to be fun.
There you go. Doors open at 5 o'clock. The fights begin at 6 o'clock. You go to fiercefightingchampionship.com. Use the promo code ESPN700 at checkout. They're going to hook you up with $5 off your ticket. Guys, good to see you. Good luck on Friday, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
we'll catch a break. We got Andy Larson, John Kimball coming up on ESPN 700. Oh, okay. Take the money and run. I see what you're doing in there, young man. All right, John Kimball is going to roll by. The latest with Lionel Messi to Salt Lake. RSL made a couple of coaching moves today. Jamison Olave, the Verb. Andy Larson, the Verb, is no longer on staff.
Yeah, obviously disappointing. Love Jamison Olave as an RSL fan. But, it depends who they hire.
Yeah. So some interesting news from RSL. Of course, that is the dulcet tones of Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune. You have found yourself in the college football ecosystem as of late. I noticed on social. It's a dangerous group of folk to get involved with, especially the level you've been involved. What's this been like for you?
Yeah, look, I think it's fair to say college football fans are passionate. I think it's fair to say that they are sometimes one-sidedly passionate in the fans that they support, and in particular, last week, hundreds of BYU fans were mad at me for criticizing Dave Portnoy for his Provo, Utah bit, which is a bit, and that's all I was pointing out, right? Like, so anyway, but that's the name of the game. We write to sports fans. We give takes. Sometimes people don't agree. We move on.
It is pretty wild that the BYU community has embraced somebody with the seedy moral compass like Dave Portnoy.
Well, they also brought Conor McGregor in last year
and
celebrated him as well.
Yeah.
Look, it's I think that's kind of what it points out to me is that for a lot of BYU fans and I think a lot of college sports fans, and heck, I would say this to Jazz fans as well, the team is the number one thing. You can put everything else aside if the team aspect is positive. And if someone is saying nice things about your team, then they must be right. And if they are saying bad things about their team, they must be wrong, especially, and, credit to BYU, they've had a great season, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't necessarily diminish everything else that's happening in the world.
Yeah, it has been one of the storylines where suddenly, BYU fans love Dave Portnoy. I'm like, do you know how to do a Google search? It's not going to take you a lot of time to know that that's not the guy for you. Look, I'm not a hater when it comes to anybody carving out their real estate in our industry. It's hard to do. I just am not a fan of the way Barstool, in my opinion, has capitalized on the worst portion of what sports fans seem to represent. I mean, they seem to have been able to essentially, move into spaces that I think are really seedy in the name of one thing, and that is clicks and attention, and I guess that's the name of the game now.
Yeah, look, I think they approach sports in a very different way than I do, which is I really like it as an intellectual subject, is trying to learn about the game, is trying to, explore and analyze what's going on and tell fans, about kind of what coaches and players are thinking. And I think a lot of times Barstool is about the id. It's about the kind of the grosser aspects of this, and that's makes it hard for me to really get along with.
Dude, they have this new show on Fox Sports now. And, throughout the course of my prep routine, I have a lot of things recorded on my DVR. So I can kind of understand what the daily topics are, how people are approaching this or that. And, I record a few things that Fox has. So accidentally, my DVR is set up to get the final 5 minutes of the show prior to. Sure. And I stumbled on their show, and they were debating how many times you're supposed to wipe after you go number 2 on a sports show on Fox. Okay, so if that's for you, then go ahead and consume. But I don't get it at all, and I just never will.
Yeah, I guess it's worked for them. I guess there are a number of people who want that. It's not what I personally want.
Do you have an answer to that question? Just kidding. We will not be debating that on the show today. All right, Andy is known as the Jazz guy for the Salt Lake Tribune. But again, as of late, he's been doing a lot of college football work, which has been fun. And we were all kind of caught off guard today by the report from Ross Dellinger. If you've been waiting for private equity to arrive in college athletics, well, wait no more. The University of Utah is on the cusp of striking the industry's first partnership with an equity firm in a marriage that features a 9-figure capital infusion and the creation and shared ownership of a for-profit entity to operate athletics business and financial elements outside of the traditional university framework. You're working on a piece for the trip. Just macro viewpoint, what have you been able to kind of ascertain so far?
Look, the reason this happened is really clear, that the University of Utah athletic program, like a lot of athletic programs around the country, was in a significant amount of debt and looked to be moving in a significant amount of debt moving forward. And kind of the only way that you can get out of that is either spend less on football, frankly, and spend less on players and talent throughout your various squads, or to get money somehow. And, I think, a lot of teams have kind of gone with some different loan structures. Teams have Virginia Tech, I saw today, raising their student fees for the athletic programs to kind of get money that way. Obviously there are SEC programs and Big Ten programs in better situations that just because those conferences give more TV payouts. And then you look at Utah and they didn't want to go through any of kind of those other options. And so private equity was the model that allowed them to sell part of their soul, part of their entity, part of what they have in college athletics to Otro Capital. Now, we've seen this play out. We've seen professional teams do this as well. And so far with limited kind of consequences for that, right? But that's what this is about, is kind of trading, a bit of who you are for a big upfront capital investment and a kind of long-term partnership that should continue to provide that capital moving forward. It is fascinating, right? And it's fascinating that Utah is leading out in this the way that they are.
Yeah, and to be first to something is not nothing, all right? So there's an opportunity and a potential here for this to really work out. We've been kind of debating both sides of the equation here because you hear a lot of panic from fans. You see a lot of panic from fans. One thing that is not debatable is private equity firms are in business to do one thing, and that's to make money. And they're expecting this partnership to breed a nice return on their investment in what is being reported 5 to 7 years where they view their exit. So that is really the bottom line that we cannot run from. The good, Andy, seems to be the economic investment that you can utilize to add players, football, basketball, gymnastics, upgrade equipment, upgrade facilities. The consumer experience will look different and hopefully be better for Ute fans, but that also probably means it comes with a healthy premium, and you're going to be asked to pay more for season tickets, food and bev, merch, and such, yeah?
Yeah, and then that's something that we're going to be tracking at the Tribune is, okay, this is now day 0 of this new setup. What does a hot dog cost? What does a must ticket cost? What does, all of the various, what does a sweatshirt cost, an officially licensed sweatshirt cost? And you kind of go down the list and see how that changes in the next 5 or 7 years. And is that above inflation? And so we're going to be watching that. I think the fair expectation is yes. When you look at how private capital has impacted other sports properties around the world, including the ones, that these guys have a part in. But to what extent, and ultimately the university does have majority say as well. So how much can they fight against the expectations of Otro is going to be a really interesting part of how this plays out too.
Yeah, that needs to be underscored because oftentimes when private equity decides to get involved in sports or other business endeavors, they purchase a majority and they say, we own 51% of this now. But when it comes to the way the seats will be handed out on this 7-person board, you're going to have Mark Harlan as the chair. You're going to have 3 other spots on the board that will go to Utah people. I wonder if Taylor Randall's one of those. I don't know. And then Otro gets 2 seats, and then there's 1 seat to this 7th member. And from everything I can tell, and I've also been on the phone all day about this, it sounds like that is going to be a savvy business person that's also a Utah athletic supporter. The names are the names. It's Eccles, it's Huntsman, it's Garf, or whatever. So there's that. And I think that is a positive portion of this where Otro did not buy controlling stake. They do not have the majority members on this board, and therefore, if Mark or Taylor, and this does come down to how much do you trust Mark Harlan? How much do you trust Taylor Randall? They will have final say when it comes to decision-making. However, when a private equity group gives you $500 million, they're going to have some very strong opinions about how you need to operate.
Yeah, and I also interested to see who they choose as president of this organization and kind of what people they establish throughout it, right? And we'll learn a lot about what their plans are from what their backgrounds are, right? I think that's a key part of it, right? Like you can have a board structure that's set to intervene and set the overarching principles of this, but the actual day-to-day management of this really, really matters for the fan experience, for how good these teams are. Kind of all of the parts of being a University of Utah sports fan. I mean, it is now in a significant way divorced from the university because you do have this significant amount of capital coming in. So what will change and how much does it change? I mean, I think at today's press conference and when asked by the Board of Trustees, they said the right things about keeping costs down and caring about kind of the student experience first. And yet we know what this means, right? Like there's no way that Otro came in and said, hey, we want everything to stay the same because right now University of Utah sports is a money-losing business.
So when it comes to what you've learned about Otro so far, kind of walk us through that because, another piece of this, as I referenced, it does come down to what sort of faith and trust you have in Taylor Randall, who's a very smart, business-savvy university president, and Mark Harlan, who will be heavily involved. The other thing is what sort of operators are Otro? What sort of operators are their memberships, are their team, essentially? What sort of business do they like to run? The only one I know of is Alex Shiner, who was with the Cowboys and the Browns, but he also spearheaded a project that was a Jerry Jones kind of spinoff called Legends Hospitality when my dad was the CEO. So they know each other. I'm going to try to get my dad on to kind of give his take because I don't know him the way he does. So I don't know much about their group outside of Alec, who, side note, went to the same high school as Kobe Bryant. Nobody gives a rip. But what have you been able to learn about Otro, and what sort of information do you have about that right now?
Yeah, I'll say, first of all, like, still doing a lot of investigation, right? Like, I'm not fully ready to put the final word on Otro, but, yeah, you mentioned some of the people who are involved in Alec in particular. Have been looking into him today. I think you summed it up well. And then just kind of looking at their portfolio, right? Like being involved with the Alpine F1 team, which is, one of the F1 teams, one of the 11 teams, but certainly not at the top of the, constructor table necessarily. Flexwork, which is this company that basically hosts sports camps for athletes, both collegiate and pro ones. And then Two Circles, which is this basically sports data analytics company that works to either, works with like Wimbledon, works with the Cricket League to basically understand their fans and market to them better, right? So that's actually a pretty diverse setup of investments that they have in their portfolio. Obviously, the University of Utah now joins that as kind of the most unique of those investments. It is a little bit surprising and a little bit discouraging how little Utah connection we've seen so far. For whatever, maybe this is just my bias, but I believe in kind of people who are from Utah and kind of supporting Utah and looking for the long-term interests of the University of Utah more than I do necessarily a group of New York-based, private equity folks. So that's I think, part of this story. And I think what we will be discussing in, 7 to 8 years when this exit happens is, did they have the best interests of the University of Utah actually at heart? Or do they see Utah as frankly a flyover state that they can extract some money out of, right?
It's the second part of that.
Yeah.
It just is.
So, and in that case,
no.
To what extent do people here get hurt as a result?
No, it's really, really fair. And I've really done my best today to try to outline a bunch of different avenues as far as how this could go, because not all private equity is created equal, and not all private equity is bad. There are plenty of examples of businesses that have blossomed and consumers that have benefited because of cash infusions made by PE firms. I just don't know enough about the operators here. My guess is, when it comes to Alex Shiner, he's probably not going to be awake in his Midtown Manhattan beautiful, condo, thinking about what the Muss experience looks and sounds like. I don't think that's anything he gives a rip about. It's also why it is important that the University of Utah maintains controlling equity and also the majority of the seats on the board. But make no mistake, these guys are expecting in 5 to 7 years to exit with at least 8% profit, and hopefully more than that. So while the consumer experience will probably be improved because of the cash, it also will probably be something that you're asked to pay more for. The other portion of this, Andy, is it appears that, and I don't know what this looks like, but certain people in our community have been given opportunities to invest here, right? And so, for just kind of a basic explanation, you can write a check for, $1 million, and you receive some equity, you receive some shares or whatever, And then on the backside, when the exit happens, you could actually make some money, which is different than what it typically has been. If just you're a BYU donor, if you're Cookie Bro or Ryan Smith, and you just write a check, you're just doing it to donate to the institution. You're not doing it to make money on the back end. So that's an interesting piece of this.
Yeah, that fundamentally changes what you expect from boosters, right? And who you expect to be involved and what their incentives are. Mm-hmm. So, right now boosters are there for the fun of it, right? They want to see their team win more games than they would if they were not involved. They want to be out on the field or have better tickets or have sweet access or what have you, right? Like they want to be part of the cool kids club. And now, instead of that, or I guess in addition to that, because it is in addition to that, they will also be expecting to make a return or hoping to make a return. And that will necessarily mean getting more money from somewhere. I think there are positive outcomes where that could happen, right? Like if Utah is able to make it into the Big Ten and has that sort of new level of income, then great. This all kind of works out for everybody. What I think also will probably happen is a reduction in some expenditures that are not supported by the numbers. Mm-hmm. And frankly, that may be the Olympic sports, et cetera. And then some increases in revenue from regular fans like our listeners. And I think that's what's scary for me as someone who's always kind of advocated for what regular fans are, and because I grew up one here in this market, like I think the real potential of, again, the price of the hot dog, the price of the must ticket, the price of what it costs to go to a basketball game, so on, and gymnastics, whatever, so on and so forth, that being monetized in new and for private equity bros interesting, but for regular folks really kind of a bummer kind of ways. Really, it scares me. And I think we've seen some of that with the Jazz, with that infusion of private capital, and I think it's certainly at risk here.
That's the biggest question. You just hit it on the head. That's the biggest question, because I think there are plenty of people in our community that have some disposable income that would love the opportunity to be involved here and invest in the product and potentially see a nice, healthy return down the line. The question, as you just outlined, is that nobody knows the answer to, is in a month or in 3 weeks when you get an alert that you have an email in your inbox from the University of Utah Athletic Department, and it says, hey, we love having you part of the family. Your season tickets are now 30% more expensive. Hey, thanks for your support. Your tailgate spot that was, $10,000 last year is $40,000 this year. What do those people say to the ask that is probably inevitably coming? That, to me, is probably the most intriguing piece of this.
And look, that ask is coming in all 120 college football teams, right? Like, just the prices are going up everywhere. Because if you're not doing a deal like this, you're probably trying to manage your debt yourself. And that means going directly to your fans to try to do that. To be clear, the reason that the Utes have to do this right now is because they don't have enough rich people willing to lose money on the Utes anymore, right? Like, so now all of a sudden the expectations change. I mean, I also do worry about the investment side of it. If 2-3 years down the road that maybe you have another 5-7 season, or just let's call it a 7-5 season even. Then the investors get skittish, right? And all of a sudden the cost expenditure on players goes down to match. I mean, there have been some really negative outcomes in private equity stuff that go beyond raising ticket prices for season ticket holders that go to fundamentally breaking the financial structure of the entity itself.
Yeah.
And I think that downside is the downside fans should be kind of most concerned about. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the odds of that happening are, right? Like, I think it would be reasonable to say somewhere between 5 and 50%, right? Mm-hmm. But if that does happen, that's when we're talking about, okay, the Utes going into like administration, like an English Premier League team, or like, like where just kind of bad stuff happens where all of a sudden they're out of the, athletic game in the way that they are now. And that to me is what, I don't want to be super controversial here or a hot takey, that's not what I'm trying to do here. But look, when private equity gets involved in stuff, the Tribune barely survived, right? Like when the private equity got involved. Yep. Just like stuff does break.
Changes are inevitable. And there is a potential downside here. And the risk, in my opinion, is being taken by the Utah portion of this. Like, when you understand exactly how these private equity firms work, the risk is not, in my opinion, being taken on by Otro Capital. I would guess they've done their calculation. Live TV rights in college football have been going up for 25 years. It's not stopping anytime soon. The Big 12 just signed a good, not great deal, but it was the only deal left in the marketplace. Ask our friends in the Pac-12. So I'm sure Otro has looked at the trends with live TV rights, seen that they're going up. The exit strategy is 5 to 7 years. That coincides with the next Big 12 TV deal. To your point, if Utah gets the Big 10 invite, this is game over. Otro is cashed in. There's nothing to worry about at all. But if there is risk in this, it does feel like it is on the Utah athletics side bringing in private equity money because of the variables you just talked about.
I mean, I think it's on both sides, right? But the problem is that the risk for the U is it impacts everyone's life more than it impacts. If Otro loses money on this deal, which I do think is possible, right? If the University of Utah Athletic Department continues to lose money overall over the course of the next 8 years, then Otro loses money on this. But Otro has other investments that will probably keep it afloat and make him do well. And, some people involved will you're talking about private equity people maybe potentially losing some money. If the University of Utah athletic program suffers as a result, though, then that has huge implications for what we know about Utah sports for the next decade plus, right? It's not just, investors lose money. It's, what kind of sports teams do we have here? Do we have baseball? Do we have softball? Do the Utes, are they competitive, or are they and also ran at the bottom of the Big 12 or worse in another kind of re-envisioned conference where they're not part of at the big table anymore? That kind of stuff I think is possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think that, again, just the history of these kind of interventions seeking to lose debt in this way, it's a move that you take on because you are a little bit desperate, because you don't have other great answers to solve this debt problem.
Yeah, you can't run from that. That was one of my first thoughts, because I was told a few weeks ago there was going to be a story that would become public that was going to outline that the University of Utah Athletic Department was in $30 to $40 million of debt. It doesn't put them in a unique situation. Ohio State last year reported that there were $37 million in debt, and we could continue to go down the list. And Ohio State, it's freaking Ohio State. I mean, they're the best football team in the country. They're in the Big Ten. So Utah's not alone in this, but it is a sign that they were treading water a little bit and had to figure a way out.
And the way that you have to get out is, BYU has its large and diverse, people who see it as part of their religious scheme scheme is the wrong word, but religious setup to some way.
Yeah.
Texas Tech has oil money. So you need people. Frankly, it was reported that Colorado was interested in Saudi money, right? And so you need someone who is frankly willing to lose money on it if the business is going to stay operating in the same way. Mm-hmm. Now, I think Otro comes in and says, we want the business to operate in a different way, and hopefully it operates in a better, more profitable way, right? And maybe they makes the changes to make that happen. And if it's so, then great, and then maybe this does kind of rise all tides and things can go well. I don't want to dispute that. But yeah, in the end, this is not just a Utah problem. And I think one of the things you've seen consistently from national commentators today is this recognition that Utah is not going to be alone in doing this.
No, not at all.
This is going to be, dozens of teams going to be in this boat, because this is the logical way of dealing with year after year after year debt with investors who are kind of used to that setup in chasing kind of long-term gains. All
right, before I say you lose, because you referenced, Ryan Smith, his private equity partners, they take over for the Millers. And one thing that we just cannot run from is that your consumer experience as a Utah fan is going to change. It is going to look different. And initially, Ryan and his partners took over, and they said, yeah, we're probably not going to change much. And then they just went ahead and, changed everything. Mm-hmm. So what is different about the consumer experience at the Delta Center? It is called the Delta Center. What's different about the consumer experience? And look, the team is in year 4 of this, whatever they're doing, that is unserious about competing. So while we're about to see the Utah fan experience change, how has the Jazz fan experience changed?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are a lot of things about the Delta Center that are better, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I would say the things that I think about are increased suites and increased ticket revenue. Ryan's partnered with SeatGeek and charging a good number of fees through SeatGeek in order to kind of recoup some of the per game ticket costs. So, even if a Jazz ticket is $2 without fees, as it was on Monday, or Sunday, now it's $8. So you've got a 300% fee there. I would also say kind of a focus on keeping the high investing fans happy, right? Mm-hmm. So I think kind of you've seen more marketing emails, you've seen more kind of understanding from a data point of view of what's going on with the fan base. I think it's hard to say too, because obviously the Jazz are going through their own weird and different issues that are mostly on-court related, right? The basketball team, even if the Millers continue to own the Jazz, we're going to need to go through a rebuild at some point. But it does feel as if there has been more distance between the Jazz and the community in this era than there was the last.
Yeah. All right. Fair. Fair to say. Well said. When are we going to see the Andy Larson piece on this?
My hope is to write it tonight and get it online tomorrow. That's kind of best case scenario. That means a lot of work for me tonight. I'll probably turn it in at like 3 a.m., which means Aaron's got to review it at like 6 a.m. But yeah, that'll be my night.
Do you ever intentionally turn in a piece keeping in mind of how miserable you're going to make Aaron based off the timing?
I mean, sometimes I will schedule that email to go out at like 8 a.m. The Gmail schedule send function. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But this one matters, so we're going to do our best.
sltrib.com. Andy, you're the man. Good to see you.
You too.
Going to bring in John Kimball coming up after a quick break. But before we catch a break, my guy Dave, America First Credit Union, live in studio. Dave, how are you, man?
So good. I'm getting such an education on this world of Utah football and PEs. It's incredible.
Andy's a good guest because we have the same bing bong brain, so I'm just trying to keep up with all the knowledge that he's dropping on us. But let's talk about this $300 credit card promotion that we have at America First Credit Union going on.
Yeah, it couldn't happen at a better time. This is a great deal for members who are going to be spending money anyway. And so if you want to join America First, open up a new credit card, you can receive up to $300 cash back when you spend $3,000 or more in the first 90 days. So that's like getting 10% off on your purchases. That $300 goes right back into your pocket. You can save, you can spend, you can pay some bills. It's a pretty good deal, especially right now during the holidays when we're likely going to be spending money anyway.
I was going to say, this feels like an excellent time for this. If you know that you've got family and friends to take care of, why not just get an extra $300 in your pocket, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, come in and take advantage of that offer. We have some great Visa products right now, whether you're earning points or getting cash back. There's just such ease when you have the ability to check your information online. One of the features that I love online is Card Guard, where you can lock that card down and only open it up for specific times or specific purchases. You're always getting alerts with your mobile banking when you get a purchase, or if you have a spouse or somebody else joint on your account, when they're spending. But it also gives you alerts when maybe there's some potential fraud. You might get an email that says a charge was declined in Florida. You're like, I'm not in Florida, but you got a notification that somebody was trying to access your account. So I love the security features that come along with that. And that's all tied to those great card.
It's good to have peace of mind, and money is important. It just is. And when it comes to what we've been talking about all day, just educate us a little bit on just the setup of a credit union and why you are the right choice juxtaposed to some of the big branches that a lot of people have accounts with.
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about private equity today, where their sole purpose is profit. Mm-hmm. They make their decisions on what's going to get my return on my investment. They don't necessarily care about, the fans' experience or the structure or what the uniforms look like. They want just one thing.
Yep.
And that's how credit unions were born, where banks are for profit. And I'm not saying that they don't care about their customers, but credit unions were born because they were not getting the services and the products that they needed. They were being maybe discriminated against because they didn't have a lot of money. And so credit unions were born based out of just the meager needs of meager people, every common day worker. And so America First was started back in 1939 by 59 different individuals up at Fort Douglas. up on the U of U campus, and they pooled their resources together in a Prince Albert tobacco can. That was their first cash register. And they made low-cost loans to each other. They paid each other back. And so the credit union philosophy of people helping people is a not-for-profit institution. And so being a member of the credit union, you get those profits returned back to you in the form of lower fees, higher dividends, special services, things maybe you don't have fees for there where you'd pay fees other places. And so it's really, truly a value to get that to get that membership so that you can get those returns back on your investment.
Good to go?
Yeah.
I was going to say, call to action now. Don't wait. The $300 bonus is available for a limited time only. You can apply online today or visit your nearest branch to get started. Eligible for new credit card accounts only. Terms and conditions apply. You said over 90 locations, right, now that we have across the community?
Yeah.
All right, Dave.
Lots of places. I mean, we're just a 7-iron away from where you live. So
Gotta love
come
it.
on in.
Well, it depends on how you use 7-iron, but that's a different topic for a different day. All right, we'll catch a break. Bring in John Kimball coming up on the other side on ESPN 700. I've got CK stopping by. We'll do some college football in the 5 o'clock hour. Big piece of news broke earlier today, courtesy of Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports. Private equity has officially arrived in college athletics, and the University of Utah will be the first team in the college football ecosystem to strike a deal with an equity firm. We've been talking about it all day. We'll continue to talk about it, but let's take a little bit of a break to do a little soccer with our friends at RSL. And the president of the club is John Kimball, who joins us on a Tuesday. Johnny, happy Tuesday, man. How are we doing?
We're doing good, brother. How are you?
Doing well. So obviously a very historic announcement a few weeks back. We were honored to be on site as part of it as Lionel Messi and Inter Miami are rolling into town to take on RSL in April coming up of next year. And World Cup draw taking place, MLS Cup won by Miami taking place. Just what sort of buzz is over there right now about this potential arrival coming up next April?
You know, it's been awesome. We had over 30,000 unique users register to get tickets, and it just kind of shows you the power of Inter Miami and Messi, and really excited about next year just with everything. With World Cup, it's really, I believe, going to be a tipping point for just soccer in America. And then for us locally to have Messi come and Inter Miami come. They have a couple players that they're retiring this year. They're going to bring in some new big names. And so across the board, it's exciting for us. And then our goal is to put a really solid team on the field so we can kick the trash out of them.
There you go. And that's, of course, what RSL fans are most interested in. And the decision-making process, I know, is ongoing, but there was also a change in management. A guy you know pretty well, Jason Kreis, you were a big part of getting Jay back in the market, is now overseeing the whole thing when it comes to soccer operations. What sort of insight can you shed on how the process is going and what sort of decisions need to be made prior to the start of the year?
Yeah, Jason is a very methodical. He's very, very focused on, the things that have made us champions before. And so I was very excited to bring him back. He focuses on protocol. He focuses on accountability. And these are all the things that we really need at this point to really take us to another level. And they're working really hard. And Kurt Schmidt is out there. Kurt's going to be traveling quite a bit over the next couple of weeks and looking for players to really level up our team. And we've made some moves, and a lot of those moves are to help us get better. And I know that's what our fan club, our supporters, everybody wants across the board. And we are tirelessly working to make that happen.
When it comes to, the Messi stuff is very interesting, and I've drawn the parallel because they're different players, but the goals, I think, are pretty similar. When David Beckham was brought over to MLS to play for the LA Galaxy, and, of course, that was a partnership that continues to this day as David Beckham is part of the ownership group in Miami that now has Lionel Messi. But Grant Wall, may he rest in peace, wrote an excellent book called The Beckham Experiment that outlined the benefits of Major League Soccer as far as what they were able to receive both tangibly on the field and then off field just with visibility. Messi, of course, is a superior player, not just to Beckham, but to everybody. David was a very good player, but more of kind of like a celebrity ambassador. When it comes to things like the Apple TV deal or just whatever sort of tangible and intangible benefits the league has seen with Lionel Messi's arrival, how would you kind of articulate the way that's gone?
It took a club that was in last place and is now, I believe they've won 4 different championships in different tournaments. They went from a $600 million club to a $1.2 billion club. And so that's the effect that some of these names can have. There's others to come, I believe. And I think like Beckham has done with ownership and different things and jersey rights and opportunity along those lines, that's what makes it compelling. And the fact that there's a lot of growth in the United States for the game of soccer. We're going to see that this next year, the world's largest sport, and how it's celebrated with the World Cup coming to the United States. But that's the real upside to everything that's happening with the MLS and with soccer in America is we have a lot of room to grow, and we have these amazing athletes that, people may say, Messi's, on his last leg. I think he'll be very competitive in the World Cup next year. But there's players that are in their prime that are looking to come as well.
So, I know there are a lot of people because there have been, some situations. And look, you cannot prepare for injuries. Unfortunately, that's part of sports. And, one of the deals with NBA basketball right now, and Tom Haberstroh, a friend of the show, did a huge takeout piece on which markets had been most adversely affected by, quote, load management, which essentially means stars deciding they don't want to show up for work. We were on the top of the list. Salt Lake was 1, Denver was 2. There are a lot of Jazz fans that buy tickets to see LeBron, or they buy tickets to see Durant or Steph or whatever, and oftentimes they show up to the Delta Center and they find out as they're entering the arena that they decided they did not want to get on an airplane. So, there's that. Like I said, if an injury occurs, an injury occurs. But what sort of assurances, if any at all, have you guys received, or is that even possible to make sure that Lionel Messi comes into town next April?
Yeah, I mean, straight up, there's no assurances that happens. He chose to not play in a number of different games, either based on injury or whatever else. But the one thing that I'm really confident about is his appearance in the World Cup and the shape that he wants to be in for the World Cup. And that's why one of the things I was very focused on is to hopefully get this game prior to the World Cup. And have heard, I'm not going to say that, I've heard it directly, but, games played at altitude, games played that are going to get him in shape for the World Cup are very meaningful to him. And so that's why I feel very confident that he's going to come and play. But as you said, there's no guarantees. A lot different than the NBA and all the games that they play and the games that they think they can pick to choose. I think it's a little different where you'll have players like that, like LeBron and others, that'll just choose not to play. I don't think we see that as much in the MLS. Players want to play. And then I think people of Messi's caliber, especially wanting to get in shape and be prepared for the World Cup, he's going to want to get as many reps as he can prior to that.
So you referenced the desire to put a product on the field. So, I mean, look, you're not going to take the focus away from the greatest soccer player in the history of the sport. There will be plenty of people that want to simply show up to watch Lionel Messi and just be there for an event that is notable in our state, not just notable in soccer. I mean, when you think about the most famous people in the world, John, he's on the short list. But you referenced the desire to put a product on the field that is competitive and ultimately can throw punches with some of the best teams in MLS. According to The Athletic, you guys were 23rd in spend out of 30 teams this year. So there are teams that are operating off a little bit of a budget that's even, smaller than RSL's, and no one's going to ask you to spend 48.9. Inter Miami's 1. LAFC bringing in Sonny is 30.1. Then it's Atlanta. And look, you can't draw a straight line from spend to results. Atlanta had a really bad year, but I know there are a lot of RSL fans that probably are a little bit tired of operating off a budget that's a little bit limited, and it's no longer 2009, the team that we look back on with such fondness that lifted MLS Cup. You've got to be able to spend with the big boys. There's a new ownership group in town, and it feels like they have committed to spend the way they need to be competitive. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that the Miller Group brings to us is that they want to be competitive. They want to win championships. Are they going to go spend ridiculous money like that? No. And I've said this to you before. We're much more of a developmental team. You're going to see players like Gozo that are coming up. You're going to see players like Diego that are going to come up because we're giving them the opportunity to play and grow within our club as opposed to going and spending the kind of money that's being spent by Inter Miami and others. And that's just our philosophy. It's a philosophy that Jason Christ buys into. It's a philosophy that obviously takes some patience.
John, did you fall into a pothole? Did you decide to jump into a lake in the middle of our interview? John's gone. That's very sad that John's gone. Got a couple of other questions. Let's see if we can get John back on the horn. A couple of other things I want to get to, John. Of course, the calendar shift is going to be complicated. What does that mean for stadium renovations? When it comes to the way they're going to handle this, I believe it will be front-loaded when it starts with the teams in colder weather. Then there's going to be a bit of a break. But what will that look like? I would imagine the Millers are looking to make a little bit of logistical changes to the way the stadium is going to look and feel like. So we'll get with John with that. If you missed the news today, RSL has parted ways with Jamison Alave and Joel Delas. So they're no longer part of the group, but we'll get John Kimball back on the line. John, we lost you there for a moment, but let's move over into the space of MLS deciding that they wanted to change their calendar. Now, a lot of people have been wanting this to happen for a long, long time. I remember my father back in 2005 was a big advocate of this, but it does provide some logistical challenges for teams that play in cities that tend to have snow. And I'm no weather expert, but last time I checked, I think we're one of those cities. Does this mean stadium renovations? How are you guys going to handle the calendar change?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is 90% of the games that we're playing now at the time, we're going to play them at the same time. So essentially, there may be a game a little bit later in November. The league has identified us and maybe 4 or 5 other teams as northern teams that are obviously dealing with weather issues. And so they're not going to schedule, December games and early February games in these areas. They're going to put them in the areas where it makes more sense. As we've seen almost every year where, the season will start, we'll maybe have 1 or 2 away games before we'll have a home game just in preparation, for issues with snow. And so for the most part, it's really not going to affect our schedule other than it's going to open up a couple weeks in the summer where, the one real positive thing is the playoffs are going to be played in spring and, the cup will be essentially played in the summer, which, isn't going to have as much competition as it does now have with November and December with college and NFL and hockey and NBA, et cetera, et cetera. I think the only competition is going to be baseball at that point. So a lot of good things are coming out of it, and I don't think in the long run it'll affect us as much as people think it might. But to the point of renovation, yes, there are renovation plans that are happening right now. We're excited to actually get to work here in the next couple of weeks on a couple of things that we're going to try to get prepared before the season and before the Messi game. And so, a lot of really exciting things coming for season ticket holders and people that'll come out as fans.
Since it was news, you guys announced today, of course, Jamison Alave is a club legend, being one of the central defenders during the best run in RSL history, along with Nat Borchers, and he has been let go, as has Joel Delas. So 2 assistant coaches shown their papers today. What sort of information can you share?
I mean, more than anything, just want to say thank you to both of them. They're amazing people, and Jamison was an incredible contributor for a number of years, not only as a player, but as an assistant coach and working with the Monarchs and head coach with the Monarchs, and then also as an assistant to Pablo. All I can really say is that the coaching staff made a decision to make some changes, and again, in an attempt to try to level up and do the things that we need to do to, put a team on the field that's going to be competitive next year, and that was part of those decisions. So, from me and from the club, it's really just thank you for all that they've done, and we're, hoping that with the decisions that we've made that we're only going to be better from it.
Final question. I can remember, and you were maybe the first employee we hired. I know Trey will be upset that we said that, but back in 2004, one of the real kind of cherries that were out there on the top of the sundae, or just something that was intriguing, is that we were bringing the club to Salt Lake City 2 years before a World Cup. Now, that World Cup back in 2006, I want to say it was Brazil, if I remember correctly. So this is a little bit of a different deal. That was Germany, excuse me. That World Cup was played in Germany. And this is a little bit of a different deal because the first time, I think, since 94, the World Cup will be played in our region. Now, the last time we had a World Cup, it essentially bred the beginning of Major League Soccer. So it's not nothing. It feels like it's a moment that the league and every club really needs to capitalize on. I don't know that been covering the team now. I've been around the teams for 20 plus years, and I don't know if I believe that soccer will ever be on par with some of our most consumed sports, but I certainly believe that the ecosystem has room to grow. What sort of either intangible or tangible benefits is the league hoping to ascertain from this World Cup that starts in a matter of weeks now?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously percentages and research and analytics that show the growth after a World Cup. And I truly believe that that will be the case. I mean, I've said this to you before. This is the largest sporting event in the history of the world that's going to be happening in America next year, because with 11 NFL stadiums and everybody that's going to be coming to America to see these games and to see how, the beautiful game is celebrated around the world, it's massive. This is going to be unlike anything that we've ever seen. So it is a tipping point for the league. It's a tipping point for the sport. They are counting on growth, and again, I look back to my famous hockey career. When I saw America win the Gold Cup or win the gold medal in the Olympics, I decided to play hockey, and I was a sophomore in a high school, and I'd never been on ice skates before. So with that, with the World Cup and with people seeing this sport played here in America and going to those games, I think there's going to be a lot of kids, a lot of people that are going to be, endeared to this sport, want to play this sport. And I really, truly believe it'll be a massive tipping point for us and help us, over the next 10 years. So, yes, I think there's going to be a significant lift and in interest. And then I also think it's also going to get players from around the world to come to America and see what soccer in America is all about. So we may get even better players that are going to come and want to play in this league. So across the board, I think there's going to be some serious benefit.
All right, my friend. Well, I appreciate the time today. Best of luck moving forward, and we'll continue to get our listeners the information they need to potentially go see the greatest soccer player in the history of the game, which is really cool. Thanks, Johnny.
All right, take care.
All right, John Kimball, president of RSL. Lionel Messi himself will be in Utah April the 22nd. You can go to rsl.com. I believe there's a waiting list, and unfortunately, there's no insurance policy in place that if he does not make the trip, anything can be done about it, which is tough stuff. But hopefully he'll make the trip, because it really is a matter of weeks before the World Cup. So you have to imagine he's going to want to be in good soccer shape. If he does play in the World Cup, he actually alluded to the possibility of him sitting out, which would be a bummer. All right, final hour of the program coming up on the other side. We'll get back to the news of the day today with Utah football and their new private equity partner. But before we catch a break, my guy Dave from America First Credit Union is live in studio once again. What's going on, Dave? How are you, man?
Just happy to be here, and there's so many good things going on with this show today. I just love the education and love the heads up for this big announcement.
No, I appreciate your time, and we've talked a lot about America First Credit Union and the different things you guys have going on. None the least of which, we're a sports talk radio show, so chances are anybody listening just likes sports. I don't know why else you would listen to the show. Official partner of the University of Utah, the aforementioned Real Salt Lake. But you just came out with a limited edition Jazz Affinity card. Let's hear about this one.
Yeah, this is our 5th Affinity card, and these Visa debit cards are different than the regular production cards that you would have. There's a lot of cool things that go into that and the quality of it. But this year's card is just super great. I grew up as a Weber State fan, and so I love purple, and this is our 2nd purple card. It's got an enhanced logo. It's got some silver sheen to it, but it's just sleek. Looks really nice. And for a Jazz fan, you can show your pride in your wallet. You can show it with your purchases, but we're super excited to offer this card. And not only, Spence, is it sleek and it looks cool, but it offers lots of great deals and discounts. It unlocks experiences. When you use that card, when you go to the Delta Center, you can get discounts on food. You can get discounts on merchandise. You can get in early, 30 minutes early before anybody else, when the doors open. And so if you got, your kids, your family, you want to go take them to a fun experience and see the team warm up, walk around, catch all the, spectacular stuff without the crowds, you can get in early. So we're excited to offer those. I love the discounts on the food. When you use your Jazz app, you can get 10% off on some of the concessions. The 15% discount off purchases inside the Utah Jazz team store is great. We know that merch can be a little pricey, a little expensive, and so that makes it more affordable, especially if you're trying to outfit a family with some of that stuff. one of the things that I'm really hopeful for. I cross my fingers every
It's coming,
year.
man.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Maybe we have an ace in the hole, but we're looking for a triple-double.
Yep.
I know fans get excited fourth quarter when they start cheering for chicken. I'm cheering for the triple-double.
Mm-hmm.
When a Jazz player scores a triple-double, then the next day there's a 32% off discount in the Utah Jazz team store for your purchases when that triple-double hits. And so I'm looking for it. I think Larry Markkinen, I'm hopeful.
So I didn't have Yusuf Nurkic on my bingo card, but Yusuf Nurkic, like 3 weeks ago, I think he was 2 assists shy of a triple-double.
Yeah.
It would be stunning if it was Yusuf Nurkic of all players,
love
but
it.
Lowry's got a shot. It's gonna happen this year. I want to underscore the early entry because it's a really cool deal, and certainly it's at Rice Eccles for Utah games, America First for RSL games. But one of the coolest things you can do if you're a basketball fan is get to a Jazz game early when like Steph is in town and watch those pregame warm-up routines. It's amazing to see that level of skill. He shoots it from half court and he hits like 7 of 10. I remember I used to love watching Dirk Nowitzki just warm up because he had such a great jump shot. Getting in 30 minutes before the rest of the general public will be an experience that you and your kids just won't forget. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I remember going when Damian Lillard, my man, came to town.
Our
And
guy,
I had a shirt. He went to Weber State, so he was born in Oakland. So my shirt was Oakland to Ogden to Oregon, and I screamed and hollered, and I tried to get Damian to just pay me a little bit of attention, just come look at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, those early fan experiences are choice and really fun, and it makes it more intimate, and more engaging, especially for the young ones.
Shot clock is on. Visit americafirst.com/jazz to get your free Jazz limited edition Visa debit card before they're gone. To learn more, simply stop by a branch, call us, or visit us online and take advantage of this and other great offers. Dave, you're the man.
Thanks, man.
All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour of the program comes next on ESPN 700. All right, here we go. Drive at 5 time, Tuesday afternoon style. About 8 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Pretty mild day, pretty mild week. We're going to have 50-degree weather through the weekend. Might get out and play golf. Don't judge me, even though it's December. Happy Tuesday to you. Good to have you with us. Going to bring in our college football insider from The Athletic coming up, Chris Comrade. Of course, the big news of the day today that we've been reacting to, kind of a quiet night in local sports. We've got BYU and Clemson going on right now at Madison Square Garden. That game is deadlocked at 19 apiece. The Jazz are off tonight. They're going to be back in action on Friday. A little bit of a stretch off for the Jazz. They're going to be in Memphis. Utah Hoops back in action coming up. And then the Utah Mammoth with a night off tonight. They'll be back in action tomorrow against Florida. It's been a rough stretch for them, and Logan Cooley's out for quite some time. So the majority of the attention today has been about the story that was broke by Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. If you've been waiting for private equity to arrive in college athletics, well, wait no more, and certainly with a local flavor, as the University of Utah is, according to reports, striking the industry's first partnership with an equity firm in a marriage that features a 9-figure capital infusion and the creation and shared ownership of what's being characterized of a for-profit entity to operate athletics when it comes to the business side and the financial elements, which will be outside of the traditional university framework. So we've been discussing on the show really what you need to know as a consumer of Utah athletics, namely Utah football. Football drives most of this. So a couple of levels here. First of all, the sports involved with the new entity are reportedly football, basketball, and then gymnastics. Okay, so there's an angle here that if you're a non-revenue generating sport, the Olympic sports, whether it's track and field or tennis, soccer, whatever it is, this is actually a really, really good thing. I think initially folks were wondering, like, wait, why are the other sports not included? Well, the other sports are not included simply because they generate no revenue. And when it comes to partnering with a private equity group, and the private equity group that Utah struck the partnership with earlier today is a company called Otro Capital out of New York City. Among their leaders is a gentleman named Alex Shiner. Alex was the president of the Cleveland Browns, senior VP of the Dallas Cowboys. He is a lawyer by trade. He went to Georgetown and then left the NFL ecosystem to get into private equity. Initially, he was with a company called Redbird Capital Partners, and they were really all about sports entertainment investments. Redbird invested $750 million into Fenway Sports Group. And then in 2018, Shiner partnered with 4 other Redbird Capital Partner executives to launch Otro Capital. So they've been in business now for about 6-7 years. They've got an interesting portfolio that's somewhat diverse, and they've got an operating team that I would say has a reputation of achieving results, and that ultimately is what this is all about, achieving results. According to the reports, though, when it comes to the sports that aren't involved in this project, the way I'm reading this is actually really, really good news for them. Because if you included the Olympic sports and the non-revenue generating sports in this side project, where Otro and Utah will now be partners with this side project in a new LLC that is for profit. The danger you run into is the Otro Capital guys looking at the bottom line of this entire thing, and the goal is, according to reports, for them to exit in 5 to 7 years. And make no mistake, they're looking to make a profit. When it comes to private equity, that's the one thing we have covered this all day. When it comes to the good news, we've also covered the potential pitfalls here, and there are plenty of both. One thing that you cannot debate on one side or the other is Otro's in this to see a return on their investment in 5 to 7 years, and I'm sure they're hoping for 8%, if not more, right? So when it comes to how they would view a track and field team or a baseball team or a soccer team, they would view it as a line item that doesn't generate revenue and therefore want it eliminated. So because they're not involved, the way I'm reading this is the $500 million in capital that will be infused into Utah athletics, in addition to the revenue generated by mainly the football team and hopefully the basketball team, and maybe a little bit comes from the Red Rocks. all of that revenue should be enough to support the non-revenue generating sports so they continue to exist. I've seen some conflicting reports about that. And again, all we're doing here is discussing all the levels and the possibilities. Nobody knows exactly how this is going to go down. We haven't seen anything official about percentages. I will point out that there are 7 seats when it comes to this new board that is going to be created, and the seat distribution indicates that the percentage that Otro has acquired is probably around 30 to 40%. Again, it could be more than that, but Otro has 2 seats on the 7-member committee now that is overseeing this entire new project and is overseeing this LLC that is for profit. And of the 7 seats, Otro gets 2 of these seats. 1 seat is occupied by Mark Harlan, who will be the chairman of the board. And then 3 other seats go to University of Utah personnel. I would imagine one of those seats is Taylor Randall. He also just might be way too busy. They're going to have a president from outside the university that presides over this new company that, by the way, is called Utah Brands and Entertainment. So we don't know who that person is, but the president does report to the board, which, again, will be chaired by Mark Harlan, and then 3 other Utah personnel, 2 Otro executives. And the interesting thing here is there will be a 7th member of the board that is not with Otro or with the U. The way it's being described is it will be, probably my best guess, is a business-minded local resident who is a fan of Utah athletics. And the names that we're going to hear are probably the names you would expect: the Huntsmans, the Eccles, the Garfs, the front-facing business leaders in our community that also really support Utah athletics. The other interesting thing that was revealed today is the University of Utah is offering what's been called a prominent group of donors the ability to purchase a stake in this new company, in Utah Brands and Entertainment. So according to reports, university officials have what's been characterized as called a small donor base to generate millions in purchase agreements. So the more than $500 million capital figures includes both the 9-figure cash infusion from Otro as well as those capital commitments from donors. So what that means is Otro is not just writing a check for $500 million. The $500 million figure is whatever Otro is going to invest in this, and then whatever money they've been able to coddle together from this other group of donors, which is why I've kind of ascertained this essentially looks like a deal that will give Otro about 30% stake. That's my guess, 30 to 40%. And mainly that's because of not just the numbers, but the fact that they're getting 2 seats. 2 board seats out of the 7 goes to Otro. When you try to kind of balance how much money has already been raised through the donors that will be able to buy into this, in addition to the capital that Otro will invest in this, the valuation, my guess, would be between 1.2 and 1.8 billion for all of the properties. The football program is probably, well, not probably, the highest valuation will go towards the football program. And ultimately, the good news before we catch a break is a very bottom line. The bottom line, as far as what the good news is about today's announcement, is Utah Athletics now has money to invest in talent on the field. They now have money to invest in facilities. They can upgrade equipment. They can upgrade the consumer experience. There are probably going to be some changes to the Huntsman Center and to Rice Eccles. That's the good news, right? You as a consumer will now have a different experience that hopefully will be improved. What's the bad news? It's also very simple. There's a good chance that you're going to be asked to continue to pay more and more for things like tickets, food and bev, merch, you name it. You're probably going to get an email from the U at some point if you're a season ticket holder asking you to pay about 30% more for your season tickets. That's a number off the top of my head. I have no idea what it's going to look like. Devin Dampier jersey next year will probably be $50 or $60 more. Hot dog prices are probably going to go up. Things like that feel like they're inevitable when it comes to improving the economic model of the athletic department in order for these guys to exit in 5 to 7 years with a healthy return on their investment, because these guys are sharks. They're in it to make money. My guess would be Alex Scheiner is not sitting in his Manhattan apartment pontificating on how he can improve the Musses experience. Things like that don't matter to people like this. One thing matters, and that is the ability to make money. So we'll talk about this with Chris Camarati coming up on the other side of a quick break. But before we break, Dave from America First Credit Union wants you to enjoy all the benefits of membership with a brand new $100 membership offer. Dave, give us the details, man.
We've talked a lot about just the different products and services that we offer our members, and this is a chance for anybody to become a member of America First Credit Union. Come and try us. And as an incentive, you come on in and open up a new account, savings account and a checking account, and we're going to give you $100. And there's no strings attached to that. That $100 could go towards holiday shopping or paying some bills or just pocket it, date night or something. That's a really great way to just kind of come and check us out. Check out our online services, our mobile services, our branch locations. All the different features in our mobile app are very impressive, and I love all the different things you can do, checking your money and becoming educated and seeing how your wealth grows. I think what's also impressive, Spence, is that we really focus on financial literacy for our youth. When you start your youth out on the right foot, you're going to set them off for success. So we have a great youth offer as well, that when they come in and open up an account and a checking account, we're going to give them $50 as well. I think that's a really good opportunity to gift the gift of savings to maybe your kids or your grandkids. I had a grandson that was born just 3 weeks ago.
You look too young to be a grandpa.
I'm a grandpa.
Come on.
No, I'm a grandpa. I got two. This is
Love
my
it.
second.
Love it.
And, what a better way to just help new parents in helping that kid have something for the future, building some wealth for later on in life. And so it's a great opportunity, whether this is a wedding gift or a birthday or a new job, a holiday gift, going off to school. I mean, there's lots of different ways where you can gift some membership to somebody. And I think it's just a great opportunity for people to come and check out what America First is about.
So you get $100 cash bonus just for joining and starting your account.
Yep.
This is limited time, so act now. Ensure you don't miss out. I've never asked you this. Why do you call it becoming a member?
To join the credit union means you have membership in it.
Okay.
There's what they call a field of membership.
Mm-hmm.
And so, take, for example, a firefighters credit union. Their field of membership, their design is to help firefighters. And there's kind of a common bond that brings people together to join a credit union. There's different types of fields of membership. There could be a geography. Common bond would be a geographical area. It could be an association, or it could be a multiple common bond. But you qualify for membership based on where you live, work, worship, go to school, volunteer, do business, who you're related to. If you're related to somebody who is a member or was a member or could qualify for membership, or you belong to a different select employer group, there's lots of different ways to qualify for membership. And so that's really what that membership means. Unlike a bank where you just walk in as a customer, we treat our individuals as members.
Yeah.
So membership does have a meaning, not only how you qualify, but membership also has a meaning in how you're treated and how you're served and the benefits that you get through that membership.
I like the term. I just hadn't asked you what the kind of genesis was behind it. All right. Why you guys? And, for listeners that might be thinking like, yeah, that's a good offer. I'd love an extra $100, or I'd love to start an account for my kid where you hook me up with $50, but also in the back of their mind, like, man, that sounds like a total pain to make the switch. Why should they take the time to make the switch to America First Credit Union?
I think it just goes back to our history. We started in 1939 with our 59 volunteers who came together and just said, let's find a good way and a better way to do that. And they trusted each other. And that trust is something that we've held on to for 86 years. We truly trust and value, we value the trust that our members put in us to take care of their finances and their money and educate them about how to get their money working for them. We're the largest credit union in the state. We have lots of great convenient locations everywhere along the Wasatch Front. We got great mobile services and online services and a great contact center. But we really empower our members to get value out of that membership. And the community partnerships that we have, the charitable outreach that we have, I take pride. I just hit my 27th year on Monday.
Wow. No, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, yeah.
And I believe fully in what the credit union does for our communities, making us stronger and giving back. And so I'm proud to be a big part of sharing this information and sharing the great benefits that we have for our members. And so hands down, I think, the credit union model is the way to go for a family, for a couple, for an individual who really wants to get on top of their finances and get a great deal. So I love America First, and come try us out. We got those great member deals.
Join today. It's a $100 bonus, but only here for a limited time. You can visit your nearest branch. There's over 90 of them in state, or go online to open your account. Experience the difference of having your money work harder for you at America First Credit Union. To see all the details of this offer and more, check out americafirst.com. Dave, been a pleasure, my friend. Be well, okay?
So good to be here with you, Spence.
We'll catch a break. Chris Comrani, other side, ESPN 700. All right, wrapping up a Tuesday show. Unexpectedly busy. A lot of talk about money today. Shout out to our guy Dave from America First Credit Union, and also the breaking news that came down earlier today of a groundbreaking partnership between the University of Utah and Otro Capital. So we'll continue to talk about this and cover it as more information kind of comes to light. But that kind of dominated the majority of the show today. Before we catch a break and say goodnight, I want to tell you about my friends at Outlaw Distillery. They're our official spirits provider for our VIP ESPN tailgates at each home Utah football game. Obviously, there are no more home Utah games this year, but they have amazing drinks like their honey bourbon, vodka, spiced rum, and coffee rum. They just came out with this new barrel-proof bourbon, which is 133 proof, so just chill with it. It's spicy, bold, and very smooth. There are bottles left, so get yours today. Fantastic with an old-fashioned or mixed drinks. When we have our tailgates, it's really, really fun to have them along for the ride. They also have every one of their spirits at Big Willie's Sports Bar, another fantastic partner of ours at ESPN 700. Outlaw Distillery, truly a grain-to-glass product forged in the history of the American West. Check out our friends at Outlaw Distillery at outlawdistillery.com. Found at all state liquor stores. I'll be on TV with Dave Fox tonight. Yep, 1035 KMYU. We call it Talking Jazz. Dave asked me for 5 topics to send along to talk Jazz basketball, and it's Bit of a challenge to come up with 5, but we came up with 5. Porter, do you feel like you are now an expert in the world of private equity after today's show?
I guess. It's interesting because a lot of people are like, private equity, what's this buzzword? It's just, look at it as a big levee breaking in the corporatization of sports. Private equity getting into it is not necessarily entirely new, right? You can look at private equity as a lot of different things. It's kind of just a way we talk about a firm of investors, really, right? And the good part about this is that there is a board in place of which many of these people are Utah men. They are Utah fans. They are invested in this institution. But that being said, it still is a big levee being broken in the corporatization of sports. And when that happens, Spence, it just leaves me to believe, what are the questions that are coming from these private equity guys 2 years from now? Are they asking, does the Muss really need free tickets? Does your tailgate really need to have reserve spots? Does Weber State football really need to exist, or can we buy that and roll it into what we have because we just want to, kind of expand on our investment? I don't know. These are questions that I think we all have, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It was inevitable. I thought it would be the Big Ten or the SEC that kind of officially split from the academic side. No, it was Mark Harlan and the University of Utah right here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and look, I am not going to run away from the potential pitfalls and risks of this. I mean, among other things, there's no cost control in college athletics. This isn't something where you can be like, all right, we're going to manufacture our shirts in Vietnam instead of Mexico because it saves you a couple $100,000. There are risks here. I'm not saying that there's not. But, only time will tell. So let's kind of delay any sort of judgment until we get more details. And I'll remind you that Taylor Randall is going to join the show at some point. He hopped on a plane after consummating the deal and holding the presser today. Hopefully we'll have Mark Harlan along for the ride as well. But we did our best today to actually walk through this in a way that was nuanced and contextualized to cover every angle. We'll continue to do that throughout the course of the week. Porter, what comes our way on a Wednesday edition of the program?
On a Wednesday edition of The Drive, we're going to continue the conversation about Utah athletics and, of course, the funding updates there. Matt Brown joins the program from Extra Points. Jake Murphy stops by the program, the former Ute. We'll talk a little baseball with him. His dad in the news with the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame vote. Richard Smitty Smith will stop by. We'll talk a little hoops with Smitty, but I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on the Utah stuff as well. And then we got an open segment tomorrow, hoping for someone maybe up on the Hill to discuss that very topic. Efforting some private equity bros as well to potentially join us to help us understand how this world works a little more and what you need to know as a fan of Utah athletics. We'll say goodnight. Special thank you today to Chris Kamrani, as well as our friends of the Fierce Fighting Championships, their event coming up on Friday. Andy Larson, John Kimball, too. If you missed any of it, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. That ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, check out our podcast page. It is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review. Say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. It helps. He's Porter. I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Tuesday evening. I'll be on TV tonight at 10:35 on KMYU. And we'll talk to you on a Wednesday drive. And as always, you can catch it right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.